Stay on the couch, and I'll grab the Dayquil.
Undo your flu symptoms with Dayquil Intense Flu. Dayquil Intense Flu provides powerful relief of your flu symptoms.
I'm ready for that to-do list.
Wow, you do got this.
Dayquil Intense Flu. The daytime coughing, aching, fever, under your flu medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Hey, listen to this. All it needed was a new starter. Got a great deal on eBay. Did it myself.
Yeah, that's cool. But how about the soft purr of an upgraded exhaust when it fits just right?
For me, it's the little things, like these new windshield wipers from eBay I installed.
From small fixes to big upgrades, eBay has all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things people love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
A reinforcing cold front on the way, but not getting here until Wednesday evening. Partly sunny skies this afternoon, 82, 62 tonight, mostly clear. That moon getting fuller and fuller. The full moon's over the weekend. Wednesday, partly sunny, a couple of scattered showers and thunderstorms, but Wednesday's a warm day, 87. Thursday, how about a high, maybe 70. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
I like the fact that it's already Tuesday. Who wants to raise their hand on that?
Oh, yeah.
You might remember last Tuesday was the day that we all kind of agreed it should be Wednesday. It shouldn't be Tuesday. And I can't believe that was already a week ago. I was telling Ethan this because, Wednesday's a day where Alex Rich visits with us. And I feel like that was just yesterday, Sue. So yep. The weekend went by very, very quickly. I'm guessing for everyone. How are you, Fred?
Hey, I'm good.
Did the weekend go well for you and fast
great.
For you?
Let's see what I do. Yesterday on our day off, I met my wife at someplace new, the Crestwood Barn. Have you done that on Sappington?
No, what
right along the Grants Trail.
It's
really
yummy.
Yeah, it's a great place.
Look at that. Had no idea.
Yeah. So
that you getting out, doing something romantic with Marie, right?
And the dog.
Oh, that's okay too. Yeah, I did plenty with the puppy this weekend. I did not do, though. You know what? My whole holiday weekend seems to be like a waste because I watched a lot of football. I did mess around with the puppy. I was telling Fred this, Sue, and this is just a lame excuse, but that stupid road closing by my house just keeps me from doing a lot of things because where I could just zip out to do things on the, it adds 7 to 10 minutes to every round trip that I take if I'm going in the northerly direction on 141, if that makes sense.
Well, it does. But those of us who live along 55 say,
yeah, I know. Well, what's funny about that is that I did this today. I really did because I get off of 44 at Lafayette, right? And that exit to go the other way on 55, or would it be the one that comes up? That's been closed for like 5 years or something like that. I mean, really?
Minimum.
Yes. So it's like it raises the question: is it ever going to open? And I get that everybody has their little traffic things, and with this closing in particular, the thing that's frustrating, and I explained it a little bit in the spring. It's Hillsborough Road. It's over by Krause Farms, and there's another horse farm over there near 141 and 44, and they started the whole damn thing in March, but then they didn't really close the road down because they did nothing. So that pissed a bunch of us off, and we started sneaking through there, and getting through, and then they got a late start. So then you're starting to think, well, when's this damn thing going to be over? At this point, I don't know that it'll be even open by Thanksgiving. I think that that's rather ambitious because I walked down there with, with the puppy and with my family. There's a nature preserve back there, and you can get through, and now they have the tractors to the point where, believe me, all these big truck drivers, when I say big truck drivers, I'm not talking about like semi drivers, but if you had a big like F-150 or something like that, and you could somehow navigate the rocky roads in there, they were getting through as much as they possibly can. But then the workers over the weekend, they kind of positioned the the equipment to the point where you cannot really get through. Someone came through Sunday on a buggy, like a 4-wheeler, and they were able to get around it. But I think if a car did it, you'd land up in a big ditch. But it's just frustrating because here we are, school started, traffic's worse. It's again, for those people, and there's maybe 3 people listening right now who's affected like me, but it just adds a ton of time, and it's just like 55. And you're right. I just wish things would be, repaired and better. Ethan, how are you? How was your weekend? You had a day off, didn't you?
I had Thursday and
Couple of
Friday
days
off.
off.
I went up to Minnesota, which is where my wife's family lives, and my parents and one of my sisters also got to come up and experience Minnesota for the first time. So we did a lot of different things. We did the Minnesota State Fair one day.
How was that?
It was, state fairs are not necessarily my cup of tea, but it was pretty entertaining. A lot of fried food, a lot of people. And
it's not your thing because you're not like showing a pig or a rabbit or a horse or something like that.
You don't like fried food.
I don't like people. At least that many people.
I appreciate the honesty there.
It's a lot of people. I mean,
Yeah.
you look down up the roads, and there's when you can't see space. Like when you can't see the road, all you see is just heads, little heads.
Right.
That means usually there's too many. I think there was 150,000 people there the day we were there. So I mean, it's
That's
the
a lot of
largest.
people.
It's the largest state fair in the country.
And where is it exactly?
It's in St. Paul.
Okay,
It's in St.
because when I lived in Milwaukee, I've only been to the Missouri State Fair one time in Sedalia, and that was because I covered it as a reporter for KOMU when I was a reporter. But so Milwaukee was kind of cool because Milwaukee was an urban state fair to a certain extent. It sounds like Minneapolis is as well because they're in St. Paul. So the fairgrounds. A lot of people, if you know car racing up there, Kenny Wallace would certainly know this. It's attached to what's called the Milwaukee Mile, which is a racetrack, and it's right outside of where Miller Park, and I still call it Miller Park. It's called something else now.
American Family Field.
Right, so it's not too far from there. But we would always. It was fun because we had WTMJ, the station I worked for in Milwaukee. We had a studio out there. It was a pretty big studio, and for the I think it was 2 weeks of the fair, we would do our shows out there on a regular basis. And you literally felt, I did the afternoon show quite a bit out there, and you literally felt like the zoo animal in a cage because people would come by and they'd point at you and they'd say, oh, that's that person and that's this person. And I've shared this story before because we had a little fun every once in a while. There was this all becomes very advanced now with the computer systems that we have. But think back to, 20, 22, 23 years ago, we had this system that we used for the news copy where we could shoot direct messages back and forth, to one another. Right. So there was a reporter, my friend John Jagler, who's now state senator up there, who was back at the station, and he's shooting messages to, I'm at the anchor desk, like at the board and the control. And
How was he sending them to you?
So he doing this on this, whatever system it was. It was kind of like a DM system on the newsroom, whatever. I don't even know what the software was called. Right. But the point is that the people I was working with, they were facing me. So their backs were to the window. So all the people would gather around the window and they'd say, oh, look at that. So Phil, who was my compadre on that show, was typing something back and forth with one of the guys at the station saying, hey, are you still doing dinner with Favre tonight? And it was just completely made up, but it was funny because I was in that unique position where I couldn't even really see what the messages were, but I could see the reaction of the people who were behind the window that were so fascinated by it. So we kind of messed with a lot of people, but the Wisconsin State Fair was quite a deal. It was a pretty fun thing.
So they had, I saw Odyssey's, our sister station up there. They did the same thing up there, which was kind of cool. I forget.
They had a studio up there.
Yeah, they covered. They're the
WCCO.
Yes, that's what it is. They covered the Twins. That's the Twins flagship. And then also there was a couple of other stations. I got to meet Paul Allen, who's the voice of the Minnesota Vikings, which was really cool.
Oh, that's neat.
Big fan of him. So I got to connect with him a little bit.
Look at that.
It was a fun day. And then we showed my parents the Twin Cities, really cool cities. And then we also did a day on the lake. So very full few days up in Minnesota.
Did you have dinner with Tim Walz or anything like that?
I did not have dinner with Tim Walz, no. But there was this booth at the state fair. You guys will get a kick out of this. They had this, they were giving out these fans, and I'll tell you what they said in a second. But before you got a fan, you had to spin the wheel, and each little category on the wheel had a sentence or a statement. So, there was things like stolen valor, or I think President Biden is fit for office, or a bunch of different things like that. It was all things that either that Tim Walz had said or believed. And once you spun it, whichever one it landed on, the person at the booth would say, oh, yep, that's not true. And you would give you a fan on it that said Walz lies.
Oh, and who was running that though?
I don't know. I have no idea what the company or who it was or who was running it. But all I know is that I have a Walz lies fan now.
That's pretty funny.
It was very
I
funny.
like that. So why don't you just share the story? You said something happened with some shoes. What are you gonna tell me the story?
So my
here?
my birthday's coming up.
When is it? We don't want to miss it because we missed Fred's.
We still got a little. It's on the 12th. It's on the 12th.
All right.
So it's still a little ways away. But we've gotten to the point now with my parents. They're like, hey, just order whatever you want. We'll give you some money. That's how that works. So I ordered a pair of shoes. My mom's great. I'll give you some money for it.
What's the budget for this?
Usually like $100.
Okay,
nothing.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, it's pretty for turning 25. I think that's pretty good. And so I get back home yesterday to my apartment, and there's 2 boxes. I'm like, well, I didn't order 2 boxes. I checked my statement on my phone, and only said, ordered 1 pair.
But it said from Prime. It's from Amazon.
It was from I ordered them from Shields because that's where it was cheapest.
Okay.
And it said ordered for 1 shoe. I checked the receipts online, 1 pair of shoes. So I got my normal pair, and then I opened up the other ones. It was $150 pairs of Brooks running shoes. I was like, oh my gosh, for the price of 1, I was like, I would say that this is a pretty good win-win. So I guess this is God's way of telling me it's time to start running again. But I got my new nice Nike shoes. And then I got a free pair of $150 Brooks running shoes.
But so how did that happen though?
No idea. It says it says my address,
your size and everything.
My size and everything. No,
I didn't think that my gift would get there that soon.
Oh, good one, Mark. It has my address on both of them, like they were sent separately. The receipts and my bank statements, everything says that I ordered 1 pair of shoes. I have no idea, but it's one of those things I'm just not going to ask.
Yeah,
questions.
well, and you know what happens a lot of times, in just because I guess they build this in, but you could probably call them and they'd say we don't care. Like they wouldn't even take the return
so
because
much money. It's like it'd be more of a hassle for them to take them back, probably.
Exactly. That is weird though, isn't it?
Super weird, but I'm like excited.
Do you like them?
Well, they're not like necessarily great look, but they're Brooks and they're good quality Brooks. So I'm
I
like,
don't
man,
know
I got
what is Brooks? Like,
it's a
great running shoe.
It's a really good running shoe.
Okay,
yeah.
I got
So I'm
you.
like, man, like I'll take them and I'll use them. So anyway, that's my story for you.
That's weird though. There's got to be an explanation for that.
I guess
now my brain hurts.
There's probably some neighbor of yours saying, "Hey, where are my shoes?"
Well, that's the thing.
Probably.
It says it's addressed to Ethan Hannaford, and it says my address. That's why I'm so confused. I have no idea.
Your mom?
I FaceTimed her. I was like, "You're not going to believe what happened." She had no idea.
Wow.
Okay.
All right. Well, there you go.
I like adrenaline. Are they adrenaline, Brooks? Adrenaline?
No, they're ghosts. Ghosts.
Oh, yeah.
We have a fair number of stories. My wife would be better to describe these, where we've had things that have been shipped by Amazon and they have sent 2 of the same thing,
right.
not like different items. And then they're like, okay, whatever, just keep the other one. It's not really worth it. All right. Well, we're off and running here. We have Carl Cannon, the Washington bureau chief for Real Clear Politics, going to join us here in a couple of minutes. Late last week, this happened after the roundtable on Friday. The governor did call a special session to talk about initiative petition reform and also rewriting the congressional districts. Nick Schroer has sort of taken point on a lot of that. State senator, great contributor to the show and a veteran of the Reardon Roundtable. He'll be here coming up at 3:30. We have Sue's News for a Monday. Frannie Block from the Free Press, Cusumano on this particular Tuesday because we didn't have him yesterday. All that and an audio cut of the day coming up this afternoon.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
You know, it's not bad right now on the roads. We had an earlier stall southbound 55 just past 255, and it was on the right shoulder. But it's really not causing a delay. And westbound 70 looks great out of downtown. 64, a little bit of moderate volume from Lindbergh through 270. And then again out at Prospect. Southbound 270, moderate volume on either side of Olive. And then approaching 21. And southbound 55 in the ongoing construction. We have a delay, especially right around Bates. Now, things look great if you're headed into Illinois on any of the bridges downtown. This report brought to you by Barron Mirror Glass and Door. They have the largest, most beautiful showroom in all of St. Louis, full of the latest, most custom designs, and it's located in Chesterfield Valley. There you'll see why they say creativity unlimited, quality unsurpassed. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
All right, cross-checking here. Sue did not hear the entire report. Got a message here. Tell Sue to check broken down tractor trailer eastbound right lane of Manchester at Weidman. And traffic was backed up to 141. So just tossing that one in there for you here.
It's a little better through there now.
Okay, good. Good to hear.
But yeah.
Just wanted to make sure that you knew. Let's talk about vitamins and getting yourself into a position, especially as we head into, the fall. I think this is good for any time of year, but as we get into the fall with, your immune system, make sure your immune system is strong. And Neovitin, you can find great local vitamins. This is another thing about Neovitin is that they are local. It's a local company, and they have been doing this for a long time. It was Dr. Ken Rabicki who came up with this particular formula many, many years ago because he felt like there was, nothing like it in the industry. He was approaching his 50s. He was a physician at the time, and then that expanded. So they have the original formula for, just the original formula. Then it became the original formula for men, the original for women. We have women's 50 plus, men's 50 plus, omega-3 fish oil tablets. You can buy these in stores. I always recommend saving a little money. If you're looking for a well-rounded formula of vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants, B vitamins to support cellular energy, vitamins A and C and E for health immune support that I just mentioned, and it's physician formulated, and it's a proprietary blend. So you can order online because you save money that way. Neovitin.com. Get a subscription. They send it to your door every month. You don't have to worry about it. Or if you're stubborn, there is a store locator. Check them out today at neovitin.com.
Your biggest choice in home restoration is, who do you trust with your home, your most valued asset? Few can match Banner Construction's experience and dedication to excellence. Banner is an elite preferred James Hardie contractor and Pella Window specialist. Restoration is a one-time opportunity to have Banner's design team show you architectural options to make your home the neighborhood showcase. Call for a free consultation, 314-569-1050. Now hiring qualified carpenters.
The number one fear of adults in retirement remains, will I outlive my money? The team at Ricken Financial want to help calm those fears with a complimentary income plan. This includes a deep dive into your retirement strategy to see what's working and where adjustments can be made. Call today for an initial no-cost income plan, 314-207-6211. That's 314-207-6211 or online at rickenfinancial.com. Investment advisory products and services made available through Impact Partnership Wealth, LLC, IPW, a registered investment advisor.
Reardon's back. Smarter talk for the Show Me State. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
A lot of times on holiday weekends or just regular weekends, I kind of dip out of the news coverage and I go right to sports and stuff with my family. I kind of missed this over the weekend and didn't catch up yesterday, but apparently there were some internet rumors that President Trump had died over the weekend because, he was very active last week. We didn't hear from him. I had no idea this happened. He was asked about it.
Something completely different, but about a big viral social media trend over the weekend. How did you find out over the weekend that you were dead? You see that?
No.
People didn't see it for a couple days. 1.3 million user engagements as of Saturday morning about your demise.
Really? I didn't see that. I have heard it's sort of crazy, but last week I did numerous news conferences, all successful. They went very well, like this is going very well. And then I didn't do any for 2 days, and they said there must be something wrong with him. Biden wouldn't do them for months. You wouldn't see him. And nobody ever said there was ever anything wrong with him. And we know he wasn't in the greatest of shape. No, I heard that. I get reports. And no, I've been very active actually over the weekend. I didn't hear that one. That's pretty serious stuff. Well, it's fake news. It's just it's so fake. That's why the media has so little credibility. I knew they were saying, like, is he okay? How's he feeling? What's wrong? I had heard that, but I didn't hear it to that extent.
Yeah, I didn't either, President Trump. Carl Cannon is here. He's the Washington Bureau Chief for Real Clear Politics. Were you tracking the story of Trump's death all weekend long, Carl? How are you this afternoon?
Yeah, as a person who loved Mark Twain, I took it with a grain of salt from the beginning. It was a little bit unnerving, the glee with which some of the lefties on Twitter were reporting this rumor, but I didn't really think it was true. But you say you were late to it.
I missed it. I missed it completely. I mean, I hit Twitter a couple of times over the weekend, but I was busy with family stuff. And then even this morning, I didn't really see much of a reference to this. By the way, that's probably foreshadowing because, when he does leave the planet, there'll be all kinds of glee on the left. They'll certainly celebrate. I mean, let's kind of get into it here with the issue of crime. And I know that there's certainly room for criticism with this president. But let me just address with you, Carl Cannon, who's been around Washington, D.C. for a long time, this issue of access, because I mentioned it to a couple of guests last week, and he just referenced that in the soundbite. I mean, the guy was like, every time you turned on the television or maybe the radio on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, he's there sitting, asking questions, or answering questions rather, sitting with the South Korean president. I mean, the guy is talking to the media almost on a daily basis and answering questions, Carl.
Yeah, well, he's like the Energizer Bunny. I would like to see, I'm from the 70s, man. Remember when, less is more. I'd like to see him add a little mystique to the situation, but you can't, but the contrast, and the president drew himself, the contrast with President Biden is just, it's unmistakable. You just, he would, he campaigned. Remember the first time he ran for office, when he beat Trump, he campaigned from his basement in Delaware, and the pretext was COVID. I get that, but it turned out that was actually a smart strategy, because Biden couldn't do what this guy can do, and it's impressive in its way. I'd personally like to see a little and hear a little less of him.
Well, let me ask this, because along those lines, it was interesting. I was a little surprised. I had Sean Spicer on the show last week, and one of the things that he addressed was, how can you keep up the momentum, because the pace is pretty hot right now, and you are going to reach a point where the issues are not going to be there as forcefully, just because of what's happening with the calendar, with the the makeup of Congress, with going into the midterms. So I don't know how much longer the tempo can pick up. Does that make sense? Or keep up?
Yeah, I get that, and we're all, our brains are in the process of being rewired by the interwebs. We all have a short attention span, but on a serious way, Donald Trump is going to be remembered, whether you like him or dislike him or love him or hate him, as a guy who understood the calendar, and executive power, because a president who wins a second term is, by definition, by the Constitution, a lame duck.
Yeah, right.
The moment he takes the inaugural address, well, Trump didn't want any of that, so he started. He dropped these little hints, I may run a third time. He doesn't really mean that, but what he's trying to forestall this idea that they should look past him, and then they're doing this gerrymander in Texas because he really wants to hold on to the House, because he understands if the House goes Democrat, it'll be like it was the first time, all these investigations. But Trump learned from his first term in office that, it can be a reactive job. You can just react to the stuff, or you can set the agenda. It's hard to set the agenda. For instance, the Democrats, all I want to talk about now is the so-called Jeffrey Epstein files. They had no interest in it when they ran the Justice Department, and they could have released anything they wanted to. But his idea is, I'm going to ignore that. I'm going to set the agenda. And he understood that, the time is limited, and he hit the ground running this time. So he did, he may making new mistakes, but he's not making the same mistakes he made the first time. He's just not letting the action come to him. He's forcing the action.
But aren't the Democrats making some of the same mistakes as they have, because they don't seem to really learn on these 80-20 issues in crime, first and foremost. Now, what's happening right now in D.C., I even heard, Westmore, who is potentially a candidate for president, I had him say, this is interesting here, because, J.B. Pritzker over across the river from me, not taking this tact.
One thing I do believe is that the Democrats don't have a messaging problem. There's a results problem. The Democrats have to deliver results and stop being the party of no and slow, and start being the party of yes and now, because the frustration that people have, it is real. It is real when people are saying that, I feel like my life situation has not changed. And so people are looking at all these things and saying, I'm done with all of you. And so that's why I think we have to move with the kind of aggression that is necessary.
Yeah, Westmore, he's the governor of Maryland. He's a smart guy. He's very well spoken. I think I've even heard, President Trump say nice things about him. He seems to be one of those sane candidates out there who is trying to create a little bit of a path in the 2028 field. But, he's addressing something there, Carl, that most Democrats, when they're along the lines of Mamdani or AOC or, Ariana Presley or all these, it's the opposite of that. I mean, he's trying to inject sanity on the crime issue in particular. I think he said, and others have said, this should be a bipartisan issue. Why is crime a partisan issue?
Well, he's right. That's right. And Muriel Bowser, the mayor of Washington, actually recognized this. She's walked a very fine line. She's a Democrat, but she has not criticized the president, and she said we were already doing a lot. We had done these reforms. We were addressing the problem. Crime was going down, but this has helped. And she's actually sounded like a statesman. Meanwhile, in Chicago, you have Brandon Johnson, who goes to a rally, literally a rally, a political rally, saying, we will resist the federal, incursion, and we'll resist federal help into crime. We don't. And the lieutenant governor is saying it's not a crisis. Well, on one weekend, on Labor Day weekend, 8 people were killed in Chicago, 50 wounded, and 37 shooting incidences. The idea that you would, as an elected official, you would be shrieking about that Trump's overreach. And look, nationalizing the army and sending it to cities, that is not a long-term solution. That is it's a short-term solution, a stopgap measure to get, they need some criminal justice reform. They need some policing. They need changes in these big cities. And Trump's solution is temporary at best. But do you imagine, if you're elected official, why are you resisting this? These 8 people killed and 50 wounded in Chicago, these are your constituents. You'd think that the mayor and the lieutenant governor and the governor of Illinois would care about these people.
I don't get it. I really don't. It's fascinating. You and I haven't spoken for a little while. What is your current take on Mamdani and what not only he might do to New York City, but do to the rest of the Democratic Party?
Well, look, I don't know. New York City already has, this sky-high tax rate. There's a sort of shocking number of buildings are already rent controlled, and some of the stuff he said he wants to do, the legislature has to do. I'm not worried about him wrecking New York City. But the second part of your question is very interesting. All the energy in this party seems to be on the hard left and among these young people who think socialism is a wonderful thing. They don't know anything about socialism. And, we live in this country where President Biden gave 500,000 work visas to Venezuelans, one country. Venezuela wrecked its own economy by turning to socialism. Then the people come here, they're given visas and expedited, and then they vote for a socialist.
Right.
It's sort of beggars belief.
Well, that seems to really sum up a lot of Washington right there, that story, Carl Cannon, that you told, because I think a lot of people would think about it along those lines of the goofiness that happens in the swamp, for sure. Hope you're all well. I hope you had a great holiday weekend. Thank you for jumping on here this afternoon with me.
Anytime.
All right, take care. That's Carl Cannon, the Washington Bureau Chief at Real Clear Politics.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
There is now an accident on northbound 270 just past 44, and it's on the right-hand side. It's blocking. Originally, it was blocking the 2 right lanes, and traffic, of course, is stacking up behind that fairly quickly. So if you are traveling in that area, that's what's going on. And southbound is pretty slow at this hour, mainly, though, from just south of Manchester down through 44. Now, also a slow go is southbound Highway 21 just past 270. And we've got a real jam on our hands on southbound 55. And this is approaching Bates. And we do have road work in that area, but it's south of Arsenal down through Bates. Then it looks much better. I mean, to the south of there's another construction zone, but at this hour, it's okay. Now, if you are traveling on westbound 40, just moderate volume, Clayton Skinker out through Hanley, and again, approaching 270. Out west, it's a slow go, just moderate, but it's Highway N out through the 70 split. We look good if you're headed into Illinois on the bridges downtown. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Sponsored by Gloria Lou with your home sold guaranteed realty 314-325-6888.
Need to sell your home and you want the most money? The name to remember is Gloria Lou. Yes, Gloria Lou with your home sold guaranteed realty at 314-325-6888 and start packing.
All right. Are you looking to remodel your bathroom, getting rid of some old stuff that's in there, maybe replace it with the tub space that is more modern or with a walk-in shower with safety features? Michael's Baths here in St. Louis can help you out with that. They have a ton of 5-star reviews on Google, an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. And this is the only thing they do. I think this is important. So all they do is bathrooms. They're not trying to be the biggest bathroom remodeling company. They're trying to be the best. They have a very loyal staff. Mike's got 30 plus years of experience in home remodeling. They care about you as a customer. They want to make sure that they give you top-notch service. Don't be fooled by the high-pressure sales tactics from the out-of-town companies. Keep it local here with another great sponsor of 97.1 FM Talk, and see if you can get a bathroom that fits your needs at a price that is usually 30 to 50% less than their competitors. Keep that in mind. So at the very least, I would check them out. Make sure that the bid is better than you'll get elsewhere. You can get a free quote. They'll talk about your needs. It's real easy. 636-775-0800 or online, michaelsbaths.com. That's michaelsbaths.com. Tell them that I sent you over.
When you're approaching retirement, there are a lot of questions to answer. Do you have enough money to fund your income for life? How should you claim Social Security? And what's your plan for health care and long-term care? Hi, I'm Eric Robert, Director of Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money Saturday mornings at 11 on 97.1 FM Talk. Don't leave your retirement to chance. It's crucial to understand and address relevant risks before you retire. Our team can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
And this portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air.
97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
You know, I'm a fan of the Free Press, the FP.com. Frannie Block, one of the best reporters over there, wrote about an ex-FBI agent's warning to parents about creeps like this Minneapolis shooter. And she's going to join us at 4:32 after Sue's News. Frank Cusumano for a Tuesday afternoon visit. We missed him on a Monday, so he'll jump on here this afternoon. We have Nick Schroer, state senator, with us this afternoon. He's heading back into the Capitol here this week to deal with some redistricting issues and addressing initiative petition reform. Senator Schroer, how are you on this Tuesday afternoon?
I am excited to get back to work, and I'm probably the only person coming off of Labor Day saying that.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm excited to be back on the air here on a Tuesday afternoon, but let's kind of get back, and we did this a little bit on Friday, and you and I spoke a couple of weeks ago, but get to the basics here of what the governor is doing by calling you guys back into the session, and do so without losing the audience, because some of this stuff, and in particular, Nick, you know how I feel about initiative petition reform. I think people get confused by that. So just, the special session 101 here to get started so we don't lose people, including the host.
All right, let's break it into two. I'm trying to do it since 2022. Missouri Freedom Caucus was the only group that came out saying, Governor, bring us back to work. We got these two things to do. So the first one is redistricting. In 2022, I offered a map when pursuant to the census and our Constitution. Once the census comes out, we've got to redraw the districts. So I offered a map that would keep St. Charles compact, contiguous, and not split like the current map has it. Warren County is split as well. A bunch of counties are split in half. And the reason that was done, in my opinion and many others, it was to appease the Democrats and make sure that there was going to be no filibuster once it got over to the Senate. So a lot of people call that gerrymandering, to carve a special district for Manuel Cleaver. What the governor's doing is, like so many other states, saying, okay, we're not bending to political pressure anymore. We're going to draw districts that make sense and don't look like Pac-Man, like the current District 3 does for Congressman Onder. And we're going to keep these communities as tight-knit as we can. So that's the first part of this thing. The second part is initiative petition reform. So, you go out to the store, you see these people with a clipboard asking you to, sign to protect women's health care or sports betting or marijuana, whatever it may be. That's going to get on the ballot. And if it has 50% plus one of the vote, even if 10 people come out, 50% plus one of the vote, it's going to go into the Constitution. The governor says, and I agree, it's too easy. It's too easy for these out-of-state millionaires to change our Constitution without ever coming and stepping foot here. All you need to do is convince the Democrats in St. Louis and Kansas City to turn out in droves, which they do. And that's how we get things like bingo, clean Missouri, and all these other things into our Constitution. So he's saying, all right, we're going to keep that 50% plus one, but you also need to get a majority of the congressional districts as well. There's some other nuances in there that all make sense, like banning foreign funding for these ballot measures, which we've seen even with the Amendment 3, the abortion issue last time. Almost 4 million came in from a guy in Switzerland. And a couple other things too, but that's the gist of it. Hopefully I didn't lose anybody.
No, I mean, I would ask why do you hate bingo, Nick Schroer? But that's kind of a personal choice of yours. But on the let me kind of circle back on initiative petition, because what is the most likely when this has been discussed before, and I want to move right past this and get to the other stuff. But what's in your mind the most likely path for that? Because you said you could get the 50%, but you have to also win in the congressional districts. There's been different thresholds that have been proposed along the way. This whole IP thing has been going on for a few years. So what do you think the most likely path will be, or is there not one right now?
Well, I think, working with the leaders in the House and the Senate, one of our colleagues, Adam Schnelting, spent the entire summer going back and forth because we talked to Governor Kehoe and he said, hey, if there's a consensus with Republicans, I'll call a special session. So big credit to Adam Schnelting, big credit to Governor Kehoe. But I think that's probably the easiest path. You've got signature verification thresholds that have been tried in the past that you need to get X amount of signatures in all of the congressional districts. You've had passage like Florida, I think requires like 60% passage for it to go into the Constitution. And then you have other states that do something very similar to what we're proposing, is that, okay, if you're going to go into the Constitution, not just a statutory referendum, if you're going to change our Constitution, it's got to be greater than just 50% of whoever turns out. It's also got to reach all, like the Democrats say, democracy here. It's got to reach a majority of the voices across the state, not just two areas.
So that would be different, though, than just setting the threshold at like 60% statewide, right?
Right.
And that the math gets a little bit more complicated. Why not just simplify and say, okay, you got to get 60% statewide?
Well, that's something that I think it's been difficult to convince even some Republicans. Hey,
really?
As of right now, it's very easy to change our Constitution. Absolutely. And, we've had Republicans coming in testifying over the past couple of years when we've tried to push for this, saying, well, wait a second, you're going to take away the power for me to change the Constitution. So all we're doing is saying, okay, you just got to convince more people in different. So marijuana, something.
Yep.
It's not just impacting, it's impacting us around the entire state. And that's where I think there's going to be better buy-in to get a majority of these congressional districts as well.
Lost you there for a couple of seconds with the cell signal dipping in and out. On the redistricting, you and I spoke about this off the air a few weeks ago. This is certainly something, it's undeniable that President Trump is interested in encouraging Republicans and Governor Kehoe to move forward with this. Is this kind of a simple process because of the supermajority? And do you anticipate that something will be put together relatively quickly? And then that has to still clear the courts and everything as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think everything that we do in these special sessions, we're in an area of just anything we do of controversy is going to be pushed to the courts. And I think that's how we have to legislate, is knowing that it's going to go to the courts. We have to be ready for that. So I think the map, we've been spending a lot of time working with the Trump administration, working with different members of Congress. I visited with Congressman Burleson, Congressman Onder, Congresswoman Ann Wagner, Congressman Jason Smith, to try to figure out, like I did back in 2022, what is a map that's going to work with your district, that you've got, relationships with certain counties or certain areas. And I think that map that we saw is going to go through the process fairly quickly this week. I think starting tomorrow, they're going to file these bills starting today in the House. That's where all these things are going to originate. You're going to have Richard West. It's been announced. Richard West is a member of the Freedom Caucus, and he's out here in St. Charles County. He's going to be heading up the redistricting committee. And I think starting that Friday, they're going to have it go through the Rules Committee. So Monday of next week, which is the veto session week, the House should take a final vote on this and kick it over to the Senate. That's where the fireworks are going to happen, because the Democrats are already saying, with all these Labor Day rallies, they're going to have to bowl us over. They're going to have to utilize the PQ, because we're not letting anything passed. So, of course, the Republicans were going to try to negotiate with them and see what we can get passed. If not, I think we're ready to flex our muscles and utilize our supermajority to get these two things passed.
Just go ahead. You refer to this, and I always know PQ means previous question, but explain what you meant there.
Yeah, so the previous question is going to whatever the procedural motion would be. So if you're on an amendment or if you're on the overall bill, it would just take a vote on whatever is before the floor at that point in time. So if we're dealing with the redistricting bill and the Democrats are filibustering, the only way you can get that filibuster to stop is they either sit down, which the Democrats are saying they're not going to do. We'll see if they actually do, or you utilize this called the previous question. And that moves us back to the previous question. You have to get a certain amount of individuals. Typically, the majority party will sign off on a motion, and you'll just move that previous question saying, all right, you're done talking. We're going to take a vote on this now. In the past, it was done sporadically. Over the past 5 to 6 years, it was rarely done. And with a new leadership team, Cindy O'Loughlin, Tony Luetkemeyer came in. They said, nope, we think that the nuclear option is going out there and kicking and screaming and never sitting down no matter what we offer you. So we're going to flex our muscles and utilize the supermajority Republican Party as the voters saw fit.
Okay, so couldn't somebody, let's flip this around just a little bit, because there are aspects of this that I'm a little uncomfortable with, just because this is supposed to happen every 10 years. Let's say, and thank God this is not the case, you got Democrats in control. They're doing exactly the same thing that you guys are doing. Now, I understand how Illinois has messed this up and why they're trying to do things in Texas, but couldn't, Republicans would not be very happy if it was Democrat control. Again, luckily we don't have that. Couldn't a reasonable person say, look, we're not supposed to be doing this every couple of years?
Well, in the past, and I think Jason Rosenbaum, who's with Public Radio, he did a great piece on this where he interviewed a lot of political minds from Wash U. Wash U is not a conservative bastion by any means, but they were even saying, look, in years past, wasn't only Missouri. Like decades ago, other states were doing this. Missouri was doing it whenever they would get a change in the majority. Now, it's in the Constitution that we have to do it. We have to go back and redistrict right after the census. But our Constitution is wholly silent as to if that's the only time we can do it. So a lot of scholars are saying, yes, it's constitutional for us to do it. New York most recently did it before Texas did. This is a political thing. I firmly believe you can just look at a lot of these Democrat states where you've got 42 to 48% Republican voter turnout, but somehow those states don't have any Republican representation whatsoever in Congress. They're shutting down the conservative voice altogether. The media has been silent on that, and largely Republicans have been silent on that, saying, whoa, wait a second. What's good for the goose should be good for the gander. Let's start doing the same thing and see how you feel. Now there's a national conversation on, federally speaking, are they going to craft some sort of ban against gerrymandering? I don't think it's ever going to happen, because I think Republicans and Democrats both know, hey, let's flex our political muscle and do it in a constitutional manner.
State Senator Nick Schroer, awesome to have you on. How about that first victory by the Tigers? I know they were basically playing a high school team, but that was pretty nice the other night, wasn't it?
Man, I'm going to be in Texas for a conference this weekend. I got invited to go to the Kansas game this weekend, and that is going to be a barn burner. I'm excited to see this new team.
Yeah, the bad news is, and they're still saying Sam Horn's injury is significant, but they're not being specific. But this Blake Craig, who was this kicker who's amazing, kicked a 55-yarder. He's out for the season, unfortunately. Yeah. So we have a freshman.
Oh my gosh, what happened to him?
I don't know. It's an ACL situation, but I did not even see the play. But yeah, he's done for the year. They had a freshman that they used and that they recruited, and he's like amongst the top 8 in the country. So we're going to have to hope that he can, what Drink said is you got a, sold out crowd. You got, 60, 70,000 people in there. That's a little different than, practicing on the field when no one's there. But anyway, Nick, we'll keep track of that. Hopefully a good weekend with the KU game, and keep us posted on the session. Okay.
Will do.
All right. Take care. Appreciate it.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Well, we've got a stall reported. Now, this one is southbound 55 before Gasconade. Watch for that in the right lane. Now, we also had a report of debris southbound 55 south of Rivas Barracks, a metal tailgate in a traffic lane. Not sure if they've got that cleared, so be careful in that area. I do see a slowdown. And they said a couple of cars had been damaged by that. Now, southbound 270, That's got some slow pockets. Now, this goes from Page down through 44. There was that accident northbound 270 past 44 on the right side. That's still causing a delay. Also, northbound 170, an accident reported north of Airport Road. That's causing a delay. Westbound 70 looks good out of downtown. Oh, a little bit slow near 94, just west of there. Eastbound slowing at 94. And then 64, mainly moderate volume in its Kings Highway out through McCausland at 270 and then out at Lake St. Louis Boulevard. We look good if you're headed into Illinois. This report is brought to you by The Diamond Shop. The Diamond Shop, making St. Louis sparkle for over 100 years. I'm Sue Thomas with Traffic 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Let's talk about Banner Construction. One of the things that I would highly recommend that you do is go to their website. It is fantastic. It's very easy to remember too. It's bannerconstruction.com. And if you click on the tab at the top that says Showcase, you'll see Home, About Us, James Hardy Siding tab. There's a blog as well. Showcase is where you can go and see homes from Baldwin, O'Fallon, the city of St. Louis, Creve Coeur, Webster Groves, Chesterfield, you name it. Homes that have been transformed with the help of the design team at Banner Construction. These are homes that were, light plain vinyl siding that didn't look very good. The owners got with Banner Construction. They put on different colors. That's one of the things that's, I think, most impressive about the Hardy siding. Not only is it engineered specifically for the climate that we live in, different product would go down in Florida versus Minnesota, et cetera, with the colors and the styles and the way that the team at Banner can put this all together and make your home look magical. Well, that's what it's all about. And they can also do this with Pella replacement windows as well. 569-1050 is the phone number to call if you need their help. They're a great sponsor here of my show and 97.1 FM Talk. Make sure that you told them that you heard about it here on 97.1 FM Talk. BannerConstruction.com.
Scott Jennings here. I'm excited to be part of the St. Louis conservative conversation, cutting through the noise with unfiltered common sense.
Scott Jennings.
Weekdays at 8 p.m.
on 97.1 FM Talk.
Hi, I'm Bob Kershaw with Retirement Advisory Group. Are you worried about market volatility? Are you concerned your money won't last you through retirement?
Hi, I'm Tammy Kershaw, and as a family-owned business, we are committed to protecting your retirement, whether you're nearing retirement or already retired. We have a lot of folks that aren't aware of all the new investment choices that are available, which give you growth and protection from losses at the same time. Are you aware of all the fees that you are currently paying? We can show you how to avoid those fees. So come in now for your free retirement review and get a second opinion on your retirement plan. And just for coming in, you'll get a copy of our latest edition book, Your Key to a Worry-Free Retirement. Let us show you how to retire with confidence.
We are proud to say we haven't lost a penny of our clients' money in 39 years, and we won't lose a penny of yours either. Let our family help your family. Call us now at 314-993-9494 or go online to retirementkey.com. That's retirementkey.com.
Eggland's Best. The only eggs with more fresh and delicious taste, plus superior nutrition. Available in so many delicious varieties. Classic, cage-free, organic, free-range, and pasture-raised. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
He's not here to play nice. He's here to make you think. Mark Reardon on 97.1 FM Talk.
Well, we have a Tuesday afternoon edition of Sue's News coming up here in the 4 o'clock hour. I actually we'll see if we can get to this. I have a fascinating story that was in the Wall Street Journal. It's kind of written as a firsthand account of Dean Winters, who is the actor. He's best known for playing Mayhem on the Allstate commercials, but he's been in a lot of different shows. And his story is actually quite fascinating, how he got to be a model at first and then an actor. And I've said this oftentimes before, man, I'd love to see just his bank account from the Allstate commercials. And I wonder if that would eclipse everything else that he's done with his earnings over the course of his entire career. And my guess would be yes, it's a great gig and he does a great job with that. I want to circle back to something that happened on Friday, and I used it as audio cut of the day, but I don't think it got enough attention, and I didn't see it buzzing very much over the weekend. So they had some people who were fired at the CDC last weekend. And there was one official who very publicly posted his resignation letter on the X, formerly Twitter. and, went very public with it. And one of the things that he said was he's very angry with the Trump administration for doing things that he disagrees with, politically. So he said, I'm unable to serve in an environment that treats CDC as a tool to generate policies and materials that do not reflect scientific reality and are designed to hurt rather to improve than to improve the public's health. The recent change in the adult and children's immunization schedule threatens the life of the youngest Americans and pregnant people. Yeah, he said pregnant people. And then when that's just automatically disqualifying. And he goes on the X and he writes this big, long thing about how Trump is bad and the administration's bad, and I don't want to work with them, and they're trying to eliminate trans people, etc., blah, 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 blah. And then, of course, he signs it, Dimitri C. Dashka Lakis, MD, MPH. And, of course, he has to put his identifiers in there at the bottom. Again, kind of automatically disqualifying. If you ask me, we don't really want you around if you're going to do that. He, his, and him, by the way, are the pronouns. So Carolyn was asked about this on Friday.
I understand there were a few other individuals who resigned after the firing of Ms. Monterez. One of those individuals wrote in his departure statement that he identifies pregnant women as pregnant people. So that's not someone who we want in this administration anyway. So if people are not aligned with the president's vision and the secretary's vision to make our country healthy again, then we will gladly show them the door.
And he said that he did the whole pronouns thing and the pregnant people on purpose because he wanted to make light of it. He wanted to make people that have noticed that, because he said, for decades, I've been a trusted voice for the LGBT community when it comes to critical health topics. I must also cite the recklessness of the administration in their efforts to erase transgender populations, cease critical domestic and international HIV programming, and terminate key research to support equity as part of my decision. Yeah, he's a DEI guy. So he, again, I don't think someone like this is going to be missed at all. No one who uses pregnant people should work at the CDC. It's not that hard. I think Carol Markowitz, who's a syndicated columnist, said last week, I'm on this constant grind and I have this axe against the experts, so-called experts, because this guy's a perfect example of that. And Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, said, this is an example of how trusting the science really means following the political science and perpetuating the prevailing narrative. Embracing evidence-based medicine should be the bare minimum for working at the CDC. On the trans issue in and of itself, it's not even debatable. They've looked at this globally. We know what happened with the Tavistock Clinic in the UK. We've seen Sweden and other countries come around on this. We've seen Jamie Reed come out publicly here in St. Louis. We've seen examples in the last week of a really, really troubled, mentally ill trans person. The two words or phrases kind of go hand in hand. Take out kids at a Catholic school and at a church. But that's never up. If you go back even to the weekend, the coverage of that shooting, which unfortunately, you don't get much of in the aftermath, and I don't like to use their name. I bet you'd find very little in the New York Times, the LA Times, the Washington Post, when they write about this, if at all, any reference to the person being trans. But I think it should be on the table, given the fact that there's just a slight pattern that's developed here with Audrey Hale and Nashville and some of the other shooters who have been trans. But I did think that the official who resigned from the CDC deserve just a little bit more attention here this afternoon. Okay, we have, I got that Dean Winters story, which I think people will get a big kick out of. Frannie Block from the Free Press, Cusumano, all coming up in the next hour right here on 97.1 FM Talk.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
On the roads this afternoon, if you are leaving downtown on westbound 70, it looks pretty good. Bit of moderate volume west of 94. And at Highway K, and a little bit headed for Wentzville. 6440 has more volume, and that's Kings Highway out through McCausland. A little bit of 270. We've got an accident eastbound, 6440 approaching 270 on the right shoulder. Southbound 141 already lining up Ladue Road down through 64. At 64 westbound, some moderate volume west of the Boone Bridge, but it's not bad. Now, 270 northbound, there was an accident near 44 on the right side, and southbound has slow pockets approaching Olive down through 44. 55 slowing as you head for Bates in the never-ending construction zone, and then it's slowing again As you approach Lindbergh, we had some debris down there. This report is brought to you by Lakeside Renovation and Design. For over 25 years, they've been St. Louis's trusted choice for transforming homes inside and out. From windows and siding to kitchens, bathrooms, and outdoor spaces, they deliver quality craftsmanship backed by lifetime warranties. Visit lakesiderd.com to start your dream project today. I'm Sue Thomas with Traffic 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
If you suffer from burning, tingling, or numb feet, pay special attention as we discuss neuropathy with Dr. Patton, D.C. Doctor, what is neuropathy?
Peripheral neuropathy is nerve damage to the feet and legs.
What are the symptoms?
The symptoms are numbness, burning, tingling, pain, and loss of balance.
Is neuropathy treatable?
It's absolutely treatable, and we have amazing results.
If you have burning, tingling, numbness, coldness in your feet or hands or balance issues, call us at Comprehensive Integrated Health today for a nerve damage screening. The screening will tell if you're at risk for serious complications and if you're a candidate for our cutting-edge treatment program. Don't wait until your symptoms are so severe nothing can be done. End-stage neuropathy leaves people confined to walkers, wheelchairs, and even amputations. The first 10 callers will receive a free nerve damage screening. Call 636-538-5188. That's 636-538-5188 for your free nerve damage screening. 636-538-5188.
I hear from sellers all the time that they fear they have missed out on the selling market. They are so relieved to learn September, October, and November are strong selling months. With low inventory and hopefully lower interest rates, this fall will be a hot one for real estate. I'm Christina Straight, owner of Straight Realty. You may have heard me say, why pay more than 4 for years? Now it's why pay more than 2, saving you even more money. Call me 314-441-4444. And remember, why pay more than 2?
Straight Realty is a licensed broker in the state of Missouri, Kansas, and Nevada.
This is Todd Nissenholtz of Kaufman Townsend. When I tell people who get in a crash, call a lawyer, but I often hear, I'm not the suing type. Listen, there are all types of people. Personally, I'm not the getting screwed type. If you're not the getting screwed type, call my firm, and we'll make sure that doesn't happen to you. Call Kaufman Townsley. Real people, real results. 314-500-5000. That's 314-500-5000.
You've got a ton of equity in your home. You're sitting on a gold mine. You could do so much with all that cash, like travel, invest it, or pay off debt, but you can't touch it unless you sell your home. But you really don't want to move. And besides, homes are sitting on the market for a long time these days. You're trapped, right? Well, not with TrueHold. With TrueHold, you can cash out your equity in as little as 30 days. And listen, you don't have to move. You can stay in the home you love as a renter. So that's TrueHold's Sell and Stay program. You cash out your entire home's value and stay put. TrueHold even covers property taxes, property insurance, and essential repairs. So imagine using that equity to travel, invest, or pay off debt and stay in your home. It's brilliant, especially in this slow market. You get an all-cash offer now by calling 1-855-300-9993. You can also visit TrueHold.com, the smarter, faster way to cash out on your home's value without moving. That's TrueHold.com.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-500-5000.
That's 314-500-5000.
All on the free Odyssey app.
The president says the people have to be protected. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. His basis for sending federal forces into 2 more cities as part of a crime crackdown that started in D.C.
President Trump says he has made up his mind about a federal intervention in Chicago.
Well, we're going in. I didn't say when. We're going in.
President Trump says he'd prefer the governor of Illinois, a Democrat, to request the National Guard to deploy in Chicago.
This isn't a political thing. I have an obligation.
Governor J.B. Pritzker has rejected calls for a federal surge. President Trump has also described Baltimore as a hellhole, threatening federal intervention there as well.
Fox's Jared Halpern at the White House. Washington, D.C.'s Democratic mayor just announcing a pathway forward beyond the current 30-day presidential emergency. Mayor Bowser issuing an order aimed at ensuring coordination with federal law enforcement. President Trump announcing a U.S. strike on a drug boat in the Caribbean.
We have a lot of drugs pouring into our country, coming in for a long time.
Secretary of State Rubio says the vessel was operated by a designated narco-terrorist organization. This after a recent U.S. naval buildup off Venezuela, where the leader has criticized it. Just over a year since a sniper's assassination attempt during a Trump rally in Pennsylvania, an internal watchdog report finds the Secret Service faces a chronic understaffing of its counter-sniper teams.
The Inspector General says Secret Service does not have an effective process to hire counter-snipers, while demand for them has increased 151% since the year 2000. Among the recommendations are Secret Service should look at recruiting counter-snipers from other law enforcement agencies or from military services.
Fox's Mike Manuel, the Secret Service, says significant progress has already been made toward recruitment and retention of highly trained personnel. America is listening to Fox News.
Honey, that flu keeping you up? Did you take NyQuil Intense Flu?
Nah, I got this. Okay, I don't got this.
Yeah, you need NyQuil Intense Flu.
Undo your flu with NyQuil Intense Flu. NyQuil Intense Flu provides powerful relief of your flu symptoms so you can sleep.
You do got this.
NyQuil Intense Flu. The nighttime sniffling, aching fever. Best sleep with the flu medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
eBay has reinvented vehicle buying. From click to curb, everything's covered. Ever try to buy a car online and end up in a parking lot with a stranger and some blind trust? That era is over. Now with Secure Purchase, eBay isn't just where you find your car. It's where you buy it, start to finish. Title, financing, registration, delivery, it's all built in. This is the modern way to buy your next ride on eBay. eBay. Things people love. Secure Purchase is powered by Caramel Dealer Services, LLC, an eBay subsidiary.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
More delightful weather on tap as we get into the evening. Temperatures in the 70s for evening plans. Partly cloudy skies. Let's dip it back to 62. Wednesday still looking like the warmest day of the week. Partly sunny skies. Couple of scattered thunderstorms trying to pop late in the afternoon Wednesday. Let's take it up to 87. That's the warmest we've been in quite a while. Scattered showers and thunderstorms into Wednesday night, 56. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
And we will start this hour with just a little bit of breaking traffic news that Sue would like to share as we get rolling. We got Sue's news coming up here in just a few minutes. What do you got going? A dump truck that overturned, I understand.
Yeah, into a pond.
Uh-oh.
At Strecker at Kerr's Mill, and they're going to close down the road. So I pulled up the map to see, and sure enough, there's just a little pond, and somehow this person managed to overturn. So if you're in that area, they're going to close down the road.
That doesn't sound good.
No, that's
right?
not a good day.
No, I don't think it is. We have Sue's news coming up, as I mentioned, and Frannie Block. This story that's in the Free Press is just bizarre, and I want to kind of preview it a little bit. Frannie, I think, wrote about this guy, Pat McGonigal, months ago, and he was a guy that was a hostage negotiator. He had trained a lot of other agents. He was deployed to war zones, but he started this investigation into an online cult that's really, really bizarre. And the ideology is called 764. It's like a neo-Nazi group grounded in nihilism and what she describes as a perverse form of social Darwinism, which encourages vulnerable young kids to release sexually explicit material, hurt themselves, and even die by suicide. The reason this is important is because McGonigal was really, really affected by his investigation. He had to watch a video of a 13-year-old kid committing suicide multiple times to try to figure some things out. But what Frannie did, because that interview with this guy was done earlier this year, Frannie picked up the phone and called him in the aftermath of the shooting in Minneapolis, because this is an ideology that particular shooter apparently ascribed to. So that's coming up here at 4:30. Now, let's talk about something a little bit more fun than that. Sorry, that's kind of a bummer. You know this guy, right? Of course, Dean Winters.
I'm a teenage girl. My BFF Becky texts and says she's kissed Johnny.
That's mayhem. So did you ever watch the show Oz? You ever watch that?
No.
Oh, that's such a great show. I think it was an HBO show back in the day.
Yeah, it was really good.
And Law and Order, he was in, I think he played did he play like the dead brother in Rescue Me or something like that? I think he was in rescue me. I can't remember which character. Anyway, they did this thing in the Wall Street Journal. I think they may be doing it with other actors as well. And this guy fascinates me because I've said this before. I think I said it in the last hour. I'd love to see the pay stubs from all of the acting gigs that he's had, and then just compare and contrast that to the paycheck he gets on a regular basis from Allstate, because this has been one of the most, I mean, it really, if you go, let's go 20 years from now and they're talking about some of the most effective and unique ad campaigns of all time, I think this would be put up there in the modern era as one of the best. So he wrote this piece in the Journal as kind of like a first person account of his life. And I'll skip over it a little bit because we don't have time to do it all. But he goes, I had a crush on my 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Garrison, when I was 9. She introduced me to poetry and other forms of creativity. He says, I knew she liked to golf and her birthday was coming up. So I went to a nearby golf course to collect stray balls in the woods as a gift. He's 9 years old at the time. Right? Climbing,
that's adorable.
I know, right? Climbing to the top of a snow fence, I fell 6 feet, landing hard on my stomach on a rock. One hand had been stuck in my vest pocket. So he says he stumbled into a sand trap before throwing up and grasping for air. Fortunately, his dad was there, and he had 3 broken ribs and had torn his spleen, and it had to be removed. And that kind of comes into play later when he has some other health industries. He was doing all of that for love. And I guess he even goes back further than that. Well, crush, not really love. I guess he had a crush on a teacher. When he lived on the east side of New York in the late 1960s, he said it was accident prone and routinely would wind up in the emergency room. So maybe there was something, mayhem was always in his future, right?
Exactly. What's his name again? I got to look him up.
Dean Winters is the actor's name. I mean, it's one of those faces that everybody knows, but you might not know his name.
Awesome.
So he said this goes back to the thing at 9 years old. He goes, growing up, I could live without my spleen, but I had to manage its loss with vaccination shots every 3 years. So from age 11 to 13, he says, I loved acting in plays at a nearby arts educational program. So then his dad switches jobs. He moves. It looks like theater is out. He hated high school. He starts to box a little bit. And then he's at Colorado College and he majors in English and minored in art history. And he was in Florence in London on an exchange program for 10 months. He moves in with his parents who had been back then. They go back out east to Greenwich, Connecticut. So in this piece, he says, look, I was lost and I was miserable. I told my college roommate, who by then was living in LA, I don't know what the hell I'm doing with my life. The LA guy says, come out, move in with me. And then I guess they get into a Honda Civic with his brother in his pajamas, and he drops his brother off at Kansas City, still in his pajamas, and he continues on to LA. He's doing, odd jobs. And then he's got a roommate that goes to Hong Kong to do some sort of project. And I guess Dean's not doing very much at the time. And the roommate invites him along. So he's there and he gets position offered to him in the world of PR. And he says, well, I want to think him over. I go out for a drink, right? So he's at a bar and a hand is on his shoulder at the bar. This is where it gets really interesting. It was a female martial arts actor. She took me to the set of a kung fu movie where producers needed American extras. I acted and a male model urged me to stay in Hong Kong and shoot ads. He introduced me to his agent. So Dean Winters says, then I auditioned for a major luggage campaign and I was hired. Within weeks, my face was everywhere in Hong Kong. He said, I stayed for nearly 6 months. After 2 more years of global modeling, he moves back to New York. So he's 27 years old at the time. And his friend drags him to see his acting coach, a guy by the name of William Esper, who then becomes sort of his, go-to creative father. And he's in a 2-year program. He meets a guy named Tom Fontana. Tom Fontana has a show called Homicide. Remember that?
Yeah.
Great movie. Casts him in that. Then he writes a main part character for him. This was his big break in Oz, which I'd love to go back. Oz is one of those that's set in a prison.
Yeah.
I'd love to go back and see. It's hardcore, really good show.
It's pretty hard, yeah.
So he played Frank O'Reilly in that.
Wait, wasn't he in 30 Rock?
Ooh, I don't know about
Liz
that.
Lemon's
he might have been
interest.
Look, he's been in so many different things. But so I guess let me
Yes,
go back.
he was.
Okay.
I just found it. He was Liz's boyfriend for quite some time, and it kept showing up. It was really funny.
in 2009, remember, he doesn't have the spleen, right? So he's got to get different vaccination shots. He says that a nurse forgot to give him his vaccination shots. He's in the back of an ambulance in Manhattan in septic shock. He says, I was clinically dead for 4 minutes and 48 seconds before reaching the hospital. 2 days later, he's in the ICU. He spends 6 weeks there, plus 4 weeks at a rehab center. He says, the next year after I recovered, I was cast as Mayhem in the ad campaign. He says the first ad aired a year to the day after he basically was dead. Whoa. How crazy is that? And then he even goes into, like, he lives in a 2-bedroom open plan loft on the top floor of a building in Manhattan in Tribeca. He says on the first day of shooting the Allstate campaign ad at the South Street Seaport in New York. This is in 2010. So he's been doing this now for 15 years. He said his dad walked onto the set. He was in awe. We could see the Wall Street building where I went to work with him as a kid. He was so proud and finally realized that I had become who I should have been all along. So it's a pretty cool story. I guess he likes to play part-time DJ. He's got a DJ booth plus a fire pit up on his apartment. He goes, I've been DJing for about 30 years. I only do it for myself in private. I'll mix opera with house and country. It's fun and a creative outlet for me. So kind of an interesting little Q&A with Dean Winters. And I didn't know anything about the guy except that we all know him from the Mayhem ad and that he's been in some of these shows like Sue mentioned. And I remember Rescue Me and Oz. And that might give me the inspiration to go back and watch Oz because I've been looking for something. And it was a long time ago when that show was out. But there you go. You get to know Dean Winters just a little bit more, who will be Mayhem for the, the uncertain future. And he's doing quite well on it.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got emergency vehicles southbound 55 past Rebus Barracks, and the left lane and right lane are blocked, and the shoulders. Take care through there. We've also got volume southbound 55 at Bates. What's really jammed now is southbound 270, and that's between Olive and 44. And 44 is slowing in both directions at 270. 141 is jammed at 44. And westbound 64 is lined up Kings Highway out past McCausland, but eastbound is slowing at Hampton and also at the Interbelt, and that's causing a jam southbound 170 back through Olive. Now, westbound 70, a slow pocket here and there past the airport, nothing terrible, but we had an accident reported past K, and that's caused a delay. If you're headed into Illinois, we actually still look good at this hour. Yeah, and really no serious delays as you head for the Poplar Street Bridge itself. This report is brought to you by Barron Mirror Glass and Door. They have the largest, most beautiful showroom in all of St. Louis, full of the latest, most custom designs, located in Chesterfield Valley. Now, there you'll see why they say creativity unlimited, quality unsurpassed. I'm Sue Thomas with Traffic, 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Seems like just yesterday because the holiday weekend went by so quickly, but we had a great conversation on Thursday evening with Mark Gelman of the Gelman team. Mark and Neil are friends. They've also been my realtors. They should be your realtors. We were talking, the conversation, you can go back and listen on the podcast too, is 5:30 or so on Thursday. But the conversation really did, we do this every once in a while, kind of centered on real estate in St. Louis and what the reality of the supply and demand is right now. And one of the things that Mark pointed out is how sellers in particular have unrealistic expectations. Now, you can still get top dollar. You can get above asking price. There are certainly ways to do that and market the home and price the home appropriately, but they may tell you to do some things that you might not be comfortable with. But if you're looking at getting top dollar, you would probably be best served as listening to the team. They have a great tool on their website at thegelmanteam.com, and it says, how much is your home really worth? So let's say you're going to put it on the market this week or in the coming months. What would you list that home for right now? You can find out for free with a great piece of software that they've invested in on their website at thegelmanteam.com. They're with eXp Realty. Their phone number, 314-336-1991, or online, thegelmanteam.com. Certain restrictions apply.
While you start to think spring, that might mean a move is in your future. But the question is, when is the right time to buy? Well, I go to my friend Stewie at Stewart's American Mortgage to ask that question. Stewie, how do buyers beat the competition when they're looking to buy a new home?
All right, Annie, we're going to give you 3 big bullets. Number 1, get the bagel loan. No closing costs. If you don't have to pay those closing costs, add it to the bid. You'll beat all the other offers. Number 2, tell the seller you're going to close in 10 days. 10 days, most lenders take 30 days just to get the loan approved. He's going to take your offer over everybody else's right away. Number 3, we give you the power of the pre-approval in your hands. You can access our portal anytime you want and generate your own pre-approval letter. Don't wait for the lender. You can make it happen yourself.
Well, the smart move starts by calling or texting my friend Stewie at 314-324-4440. That's 314-324-4440. He just gave you those 3 tips to smart buying to beat the competition. Google the bagel loan for more information. NMLS number 226715.
Your biggest choice in home restoration is, who do you trust with your home, your most valued asset? Few can match Banner Construction's experience and dedication to excellence. Banner is an elite preferred James Hardy contractor and Pella Window specialist. Restoration is a one-time opportunity to have Banner's design team show you architectural options to make your home the neighborhood showcase. Call for a free consultation, 314-569-1050. Now hiring qualified carpenters.
That baby's gone!
Cardinals fans, FanDuel Sports Network is your home of the Cardinals.
That ball was mashed.
And there are more ways to watch this season.
Holy cow!
Subscribe directly to FanDuel Sports Network to stream the Cardinals without blackouts.
How about that play?
Or watch through a TV provider.
Incredible!
Including DirecTV, Spectrum, Xfinity, Fubo, and more.
He got it!
Learn more at cardinals.com/TV.
Ball game! It couldn't have worked out any better for the Cardinals.
We know there's a lot that can go on during one night of baseball. Long home runs, epic pitching performances, catches that defy space, time, and gravity.
Climbing the wall! Did he catch it? He did!
But what if you could get all of that summarized in a quick, concise, and at least we think, funny podcast that's under 10 minutes? Check out MLB.com's morning lineup. It runs Monday through Friday mornings on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you love listening most.
Bold conversations, no apologies. The Mark Reardon Show, 97.1 FM Talk.
Missed our conversation with Frank Cusumano yesterday. He is going to be here a little bit later this hour. We'll talk some sports, some NFL football, some college football, some baseball. I don't know about you, I watched a lot of U.S. Open tennis over the weekend. Did you do that?
Oh my God. You know what? I was going back and forth between places, so I listened to it on the radio, which I might say is not quite as great.
Yeah, there was a lot of good matches. Osaka smoked Coco Gauff, though. Coco did not look so very good. I was expecting that to be a little bit better match yesterday afternoon, but I like watching it. They do a good job kind of going back and forth between the good matches and the ones that are tight. And, a great team of Chrissy Everett and John McEnroe and the rest that do the coverage. Yeah.
Did you hear about that story that went viral of
it's coming up.
Okay, great. I'll hold it.
Yep.
Zip it. There we go. Let's just do Sue's News, and we'll figure it out from there. Right, here we go.
These allegations are deeply concerning.
Does the president have any comment?
We're not going to comment.
It's not clear messaging.
No.
And now, Sue's News. Brought to you by Sue.
Well, happy National Blueberry Popsicle Day, which is extremely specific, but I do love a blueberry. So I say celebrate.
I
don't happen to have one.
Until American women can't get blueberries for their smoothies.
That's one of our favorites from the spring. That was like when all the tariff stuff was around. Man, and those protests, those blueberry protests, you would admit, Sue, they happen every weekend in American cities. That's one of the issues with the crime problem. They just can't get those women, protesting the blueberries in a nonviolent way.
Well, and possibly more importantly, well, it's not even possible. It just is. It's also National VJ Day. And that means 80 years ago in 1945, Japan formally surrendered by signing the documents officially ending World War II. Apparently on August 15th, they called it, but they didn't sign the documents until today. 80 years ago.
And I'm Fred. What did I do, Fred?
You should have seen Mark's face.
I'm
trying
like,
to figure out what you
VJ,
said.
like video jock or what? And then
no,
you said 80
no.
years. I'm like, wait a second. I don't think MTV goes back that far. So
Nope.
I screwed up my history there for just a second.
80s
victory
yourself.
in Japan.
Yes, that makes a little bit more
yes.
sense with the time frame involved.
Fred, I've got one for you. Fred, as we know, is the Gilligan's Island fan
Oh, yeah.
to beat all Gilligan's Island fans. And unfortunately, this is a sad one, but it was 20 years ago today, in 2005, when Bob Denver passed away at the age of 70. I didn't realize he was only 70.
He's pretty
He, of
young.
course, was Gilligan on Gilligan's Island.
Yeah, he was great.
How much stuff do you have Gilligan's Island wise?
Just a lot of books about Gilligan's Island. He was a really
Okay.
good guest. When we had him on KMOX, we had a.
Oh, he was?
Yeah, he was fun. And he always stayed thin.
Did you have him in studio?
Well, we did a remote.
Oh, okay.
At the Cardinals, and he was like at some event.
Nice.
With the Cardinals. So yeah, he was a lot of fun in person.
Yeah, that is
good, I'm
young.
glad.
And then
Yeah.
will we only have Tina Louise alive? Is that it?
I think there's
Yeah.
only one. Yeah.
Yeah, of all of them. It's a shame. It's Telephone Tuesday, by the way, when businesses supposedly get the most phone calls all year. It's because everything's open again after the long weekend. And also, people start planning for the holidays today. I
believe
thought,
it.
what?
I believe
really?
it. Yeah. Look, my
The
wife and daughter.
holidays?
I have no idea what's going on, but here's the thing: what happened yesterday? They leave. They go to Target. They're seemingly there for like 3 hours. I have no idea why that takes so long. My daughter's there with a friend, and she's buying Halloween stuff already. Now, you know as well as I do, you can go into Lowe's right now, and I bet they'd have Christmas stuff up as well
course.
because they ship from Halloween very quickly into Christmas. So, but I know people that get all their Christmas shopping done by, around this time. I think it's insane, but yeah, it would not surprise me. I'm already getting emails from, I have this lighting company that does the lights on the top of my house, and they kill me because I love this company, by the way, Santa's Elves, but they offer you a discount if you pay by like September 10th or something like that. Well, then they go up on the house. Remember what happened last year? They put them on the damn house right around Halloween because this is a smaller company. And if they don't do that, they can't get them all on the houses. So I end up having my lights on and I don't turn them on from like Halloween until the second or third week of January. That's half the year.
I see more and more people just putting theirs up professionally and leaving them, and then they just flip them on. Well,
I think I've noticed that too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's a thing.
It might be.
I cannot. That is not in my world. Fred, do you put yours up?
We have a simple strand. Yes, we put them up. We put them up.
That's fair. A simple
It's
strand.
either
There's
orange
nothing
or
wrong.
black. Maybe it's a combined.
You mean for
orange and
Halloween?
black. For
Yeah, for
Halloween.
Oh,
Halloween.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
for
got
Halloween.
Yeah, I saw a Halloween display at Deerberg's probably a month ago. So yeah, they're really ready. Well, they say it's harder and harder to talk to a human, by the way, if it is Telephone Tuesday, even at many small businesses. And it's an unwelcome change. Well, no kidding. I feel like it's been that way for years, but it has gotten worse. In a recent poll, 62% of customers prefer human interactions over automated. How is it 62? Everybody prefers an actual person. And 77 believe a phone call is the best, most efficient way to get an answer. Well, it used to be if you can get a person. Other than that, you just go, wait, one, oh, does that take me back to the menu? And then you just hit 000, hoping the operator will come. But maybe that's just me.
No,
No,
that's
too.
not just you.
I'm like, get me up. Yeah.
If you had a montage of all the people that just because what you did there, I do too. You scream into the phone, customer service. And
Yes.
then I usually cuss and say something. It doesn't do any good whatsoever. It doesn't get someone on the phone quicker. And then if you do get someone on the phone, there's the added challenge of understanding what the person that's
Correct.
in Mumbai is saying, right?
Oh my gosh, it's all true. All right, here are a few things we can look forward to in September. We always do this at the beginning of the month. In sports, the NFL season kicks off this Thursday.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
Eagles hosting the Cowboys. Ugh, can't stand the Cowboys. Then the Chiefs and the Chargers. Thank you, Fred.
That's me,
that's
actually.
Mark.
I took control of it there.
Thank you. And then the Chiefs and the Chargers play in Brazil on Friday.
Right.
And a lot of college football this month. The U.S. Open of Tennis runs through Sunday. Golf's Ryder Cup starts on the 26th. Now, they've got Spinal Tap 2 coming out in theaters on September 12th. I never saw the first one.
What?
But you as men, I assume, have seen that, loved it. Yes.
It's been a while, but
I saw the
yeah.
previews for 2 over the weekend when we went to see the Jaws. When they did.
Oh, yeah,
Jaws.
how was that,
that was
Fred?
really good. But now the Jaws was great. But the previews for Spinal Tap 2 are pretty funny.
So there's this.
Are they really?
And I was very fortunate when I was younger and older to be backstage for a lot of concerts. And one of my favorite scenes in Spinal Tap is when they're trying to find the stage and they can't do it. And let me tell you, there's that exists out there. You take a wrong turn behind a stage and then you end up in a corner or something like that. But this will be interesting to see if it holds up, right? Because who's the crowd for that, right?
Right. Well, I assume the same one who saw it the first time.
Yeah.
Only
I can't believe you've never seen that, though.
No, I
a
haven't.
mockumentary, as they say.
Yeah,
It's a mockumentary. Pretty good stuff.
Well, a ton of big shows on the way this month. NCIS Tony and Ziva is coming out on Thursday, but the new season of the Great British Bake Off hits Netflix on Friday. That's what I'm really excited about. And Only Murders in the Building is back next Tuesday. All right, I was going to talk about the Fred story. Let me see, the one he was almost going to go. Okay, here it is. The Polish CEO who became a villain by grabbing a hat that a tennis pro was trying to give to a kid at the U.S. Open had to come out and apologize, and he called it a, quote, serious mistake. He claims he thought the player was giving the hat to him. Peter thank you. Whose name actually does kind of sound like a Bond villain, grabbed the hat that tennis star Kamil Myshak was trying to hand to the boy and took off with it. He says, quote, I would like to unequivocally apologize to the boy who was harmed, his family, as well as all the fans and the player himself. I mean, have you seen the video?
Yeah,
Fred?
I've
Did
seen
you
the video.
see it? You saw it, Mark?
It didn't look like an accident. No, it looked.
No, he
knew
grabbed
exactly
it.
what he was doing. Right.
Yeah, he did. And a pancake soup recipe from 1975 is going viral. You make pancakes, cut them into strips, then put them into an actual broth made from bouillon cubes and water. This sounds so disgusting to me. Thank you. It's another reason not to get TikTok. It's actually an old German dish called Fladelsuppe. Fladelsuppe. I couldn't really tell you.
I like your pronunciation. No matter what the
Thanks.
real pronunciation is, I like yours.
Thank you. And finally, it's Sue's News. We have today's random fact. And I did not know this. Elton John's song Philadelphia Freedom was written as a favor to his friend Billie Jean King because she was on a pro tennis team called the Philadelphia Freedoms.
Yeah.
Now, the team only lasted for one season, but that is the whole reason for the song Philadelphia Freedom.
That's crazy.
Isn't that nuts?
That is a
Wait.
random fact. And I think if you go back, by the way, that was the song when I was 8 or 9 years old that hooked me to Elton John. That and Someone Saved My Life Tonight. I love both of those, but that's interesting. Great random fact. Thank you, Sue.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll do it again tomorrow.
I'm Chad Robinson with Your Money Now. President Trump saying today he will ask the Supreme Court for an expedited ruling to overturn a decision that found most of his tariffs illegal. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit said on Friday that Trump does not have the authority to implement most of his tariffs. The appeals court delayed its ruling from taking effect until October 14th to allow the Trump administration time to ask the Supreme Court to take the case. Pepsi shares were up today after Elliott Investment Management took a big stake in the iconic company. Shares of Pepsi started the day up roughly 4% in morning trading before closing shy of 1.5% higher. Shares were down almost 2% this year before today's gain. On Wall Street, stocks were lower today with the three major averages losing anywhere from 0.5 to 0.8%. U.S. crude oil futures for October, however, gained 2.5% today below 66 a barrel. That's Your Money Now.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
You want a great experience with a flooring project? I'm going to guide you in right now. That's Michael's Flooring Outlet with 3 great locations in the St. Louis area. They have done great work for many, many decades here in St. Louis. And one thing that I always like to focus in on is the customer service, because I know that Mike and his team are very, very proud of that. If you go online to igotfloor.com, their spectacular website, you can see review after review where people are raving. I left one certainly after last fall about the level of service and the knowledge that they have at Michael's. You're just not going to find that at a big box store. They have these awesome locations with tons of products. You can always order things online or even work with the staff members and they can text you or email you some pictures. But going into the store is really a great experience because there's so many options. They have the experts. They can guide you into the products for your particular lifestyle. They're in St. Peter's at 116 Main Street, in Darden Prairie, and on Olive in Creve Coeur. Also, the website, as I mentioned, has everything you can need. igotfloor.com, Michael's Flooring Outlet.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
And this portion of the show at 4:32 sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air.
From Troy, Missouri to Troy, Illinois. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Frank Cusumano coming up here in about 15 minutes. We usually wrap up the weekend of sports with him on a Monday because of the holiday. He is going to slide in here in just a few minutes. In the next hour, got to think about this just a little bit. Oh, yeah, Duane Patterson, our friend from hotair.com. And there's a real interesting piece from a journalist in Wisconsin on some of the trans stuff out there. And we're going to get Brook on the air. Brook Brandtjen is her name at 5:32. So, you know, I a little bit earlier this afternoon talked slightly, just a little bit about the shooting in Minnesota. You know, sometimes these things happen, they're big stories, and then they go away, and we don't hear much about what happened. And I think there's still some questions, certainly, about the mother and the father. It's interesting. Andy No, who's been out there, he's very, very popular on the interwebs, wrote an entire piece kind of defending the mom of the shooter because apparently she was getting a lot of blame online that maybe was not deserved. I can get into that just a little bit as well. But Frannie Block is with us from the Free Press and wrote something that was a follow-up to another piece that was in the FP earlier this year. She joins us. This is related to the shooting in Minneapolis. Hello, Frannie. Welcome back. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me.
So you introduced us to a guy by the name of Pat McGonigal, but this is a Q&A that you did with him in the aftermath of what happened last week. But he was part of a different story that the Free Press did earlier this year, right?
Correct. So Pat McGonigal, he's a former FBI agent, and he actually retired from the force a few years ago because a case that he investigated was so difficult, it brought him to a mental health breaking point. And the case had to do with this satanic online cult called 764. And so that's really where Pat's done everything you can imagine in the FBI. He's served overseas. He's worked on anti-terrorism work. But this is really the case that broke him. And it's because of how evil this ideology is.
Yeah. So, and one of the things that you mentioned, I can't even imagine, you know, watching this one time, and maybe I'll set it up this way. I'll frame it this way. One time I'm on vacation in Wisconsin and I'm at a rental home, and 2 doors away from where I'm staying, I see a cop car and I hear this shriek, Frannie, that is still with me until this day. I can hear this scream from a mother who showed up because her son had committed suicide in that house. It was a vacation home.
Gosh.
He had got, it's just one of those things that, you know, when I heard the shriek, you knew something bad had happened. And then I found out. I bring this up because that stuck with me. I didn't even see anything, right? But I can remember that moment. But here's a guy who does this investigation into a 13-year-old kid who was manipulated and then, died by suicide. And he has to watch the video of this over and over as part of the investigation, right?
Correct. Yes. He had to watch this video that you mentioned. He had to watch many other just horrendous videos of children hurting themselves. And this goes back to what this online cult believes in, which is this very sick, satanic form of social Darwinism. And they essentially try to manipulate vulnerable young children into hurting themselves. And it's seen as a prize if in doing so, and sometimes recording it, posting it online. It's really sick and horrible. It's unimaginable. And this is what Pat was investigating, and ultimately what ended his career in the FBI.
So I can imagine, having to investigate things along those lines. You mentioned that there was a guy that was finally arrested as a leader of 764. I've never heard of this group. And if I have, I really haven't paid close attention. But you decided to call him in the aftermath of the shooting last week because there's some references in the manifesto of this shooter to this group 764.
Yeah, so it appears based off of the writings in the manifesto and other writings posted on the internet that the shooter, Robin Westman, may have been a subscriber to this type of ideology. There's a group called the Order of Nine Angels, which appears to be related to 764. These are all of these different kind of online cults. And it appears that ultimately what's the through line ideology here is this idea of nihilism, this idea of just wanting the world to burn, that there's nothing to live for. And that appears to really read throughout many of the materials produced by the shooter in this scenario. And so that's why I called Pat, is because I wanted to know, why is this nihilism taking hold among so many young people in this country? What is going on, and what can we do? What can the FBI do to try to stop it?
And what was his answer there? Because, one of the questions would be, where are they, right? How are they hiding? How do they decide what they do? And can we do anything to stop them? And a lot of this is all done online.
Yes. So the way Pat describes it is a lot of these people, these predators, they hang out in online chat groups, and they especially look for kids who are dealing with mental health problems. So they're looking into online chat groups where kids are talking about how they're really struggling with something, how they're going through something. And they try to then lure those kids out of the chat groups into one-on-one conversations. And that's ultimately where these predators look for victims. And so the way Pat describes it is, one, the most important thing that parents in particular need to be looking out for is just not being cavalier about their children's use of the internet, because there are all of these very scareable, very disturbed and sick people on there who potentially are looking to do harm.
Yeah, and as the parent of a 10-year-old, and I've navigated this with my kids who are older, they're in their 20s right now, and it was tough enough to do that 10 years ago, or a little bit more than that. It's even more scary now because of all these things that are lurking out there. And in this particular case, this is quite a quote from Pat McMonagle. He says, "When I signed up to work in the FBI, I expected to be fighting terrorists whose ideologies were known and were waging a war against the U.S. and the West. But these faceless people online, to me, were more than terrorists." And that, for a guy that's worked in, that line for decades, coming across a lot of bad people, that's quite a statement, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And I asked Pat about that, actually. I'm like, what is it about these groups that made it so hard to investigate? And he said, it's just the pure evil. And that stuck with me a lot in talking to Pat about these issues. And what he witnessed and saw as an FBI agent is he just couldn't get over the pure evil of what this ideology is and what these people believe and what they try to do to the most vulnerable people in our society. And I'll also add that, as you said, Pat he's been all over the world. He's literally survived bombs from enemy fire while stationed abroad trying to protect the United States. And yet it's this evil that he simply cannot shake.
So he seemed to indicate, if I'm interpreting this correctly in the conversation with you, that the FBI wasn't really doing well at tracking, or at least even paying attention to groups like this. But he feels like maybe they've righted the ship and there's a little bit more focus on a group like this.
Yes, he said that he feels finally the FBI is really focusing and putting resources towards investigating these groups. Actually, they've created a new classification of a criminal. It's called a nihilistic violent extremist, or an NVE. And I think this classification is perhaps the first step in the signal that the FBI is really taking this issue seriously. They are looking to investigate and stop criminals who adhere to this type of nihilistic ideology, who just simply hold some of the most hateful, odious views that you can imagine across the political spectrum in every single way, and they just simply want to see the world burn. And now the FBI is really trying to investigate them and dedicate resources towards trying to stop this.
I mean, I'm guessing you watched the creepy video that came out before they pulled it down and just heard the narration from the killer, which is beyond bizarre.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I did.
Yeah, I mean, and you just. I don't know, and I mentioned there's some questions about the parents. I don't know if you have opinions about the mom or the dad at this point. It seems to be a lot of questions about the mom because she approved the, the change of name, but not a lot of focus on the dad. And I'm a little uncomfortable in putting, blame on parents for kids that are doing crazy stuff, and we don't know all the facts at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know all the facts there, and I don't know everything about this person, about their family, and what's going on in that direction. The reason I did this story was simply because of this ideology. Having spoken to Pat previously, I knew that this was an area where he had expertise, and I really thought it was important for parents to know that this is out there and what they can do to try to protect their kids.
Well, good work as usual. I'm a fan of the free press, so I like this because this is a completely different, angle that I had not really even seen mentioned out there. So I appreciate you, Frannie. Appreciate you coming on here on 97.1 FM Talk in St. Louis to talk about it.
Thanks so much for having me.
Take care. I mentioned, there was this back and forth. I got to see if I save this because sometimes what I do is I put these things in my reading list on my iPad and now I can't find it right away. But there was the, kind of the back and forth from, I mentioned Andy No, who has its NGO, who has a presence, pretty good presence on Twitter. And I know that he was kind of defending the mom. I'll have to find it. I think I'm going to take my, break and come back because it was interesting because they were defending the mom and the mom had done some things in the past, I guess, maybe to try to get involved with her son's her son's mental illness, but I can't find it right now. So I'll take a break. I'll come back. Then we'll have Duane Patterson from hotair.com after the top of the hour. Then at 5:30 this evening, I mentioned this is another one of those creepy things. Brook Brandtjen is the writer. She's a journalist from Wisconsin, wrote about how, some of the transgender stuff is going on and how evil that particular aspect of the culture wars really is. So that's coming up at 5:30, plus an audio cut of the day.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Well, if you are southbound on 55, it's slowing at Bates. We've got the usual volume there. But to the south of there, it looks a lot better. And that had not been the case. We had some issues south of Rebus Barracks. Southbound 141 is really jammed tonight, headed down toward 44. Southbound 270 is slow too. Now, this is south of Page, but it does go down to almost Gravois. We've got 44 westbound slowing in front of the Arch grounds as well. Now, if you're taking 70 out of downtown, it's fine. We had a little moderate volume at Highway K. 6440 has more volume, and that's Kings Highway out through McCausland. It's slowing at 270. Moderate volume through Chesterfield Valley and Highway N out through the 70 split. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. This report is brought to you by Barron Mirror Glass and Door. Simply the finest when it comes to mirror glass and shower doors. You can't find better quality, prices, or service. They have the basics up to the elite. Barron Mirror Glass. Mark?
I'll take it from here.
Thank you.
All right, you come back here in a second. I think you have a commercial to do, but we'll come back with Sue in just a moment.
Scott Jennings here. I'm excited to be part of the St. Louis conservative conversation, cutting through the noise with unfiltered common sense.
Scott Jennings.
Weekdays at 8 p.m.
on 97.1 FM Talk.
Are you looking to hire? ZipRecruiter finds the best candidate for your job fast. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Mark Reardon, Sue Thomas. This is the Mark Reardon Show.
Hey, it's Bo Matthews, and Missouri Brush Control is helping landowners reclaim their property through eco-friendly forestry mulching. Missouri Brush Control can transform your overgrown acreage into accessible and usable land, and in a fraction of the time compared to conventional methods. Missouri Brush Control also cleans up around ponds, lakes, and dams, allowing easy access to your water feature. They service residential, commercial, and recreational properties with their specialized machines and years of expertise. Enjoy your land like you've always dreamed of. Visit MissouriBrushControl.com. That's MissouriBrushControl.com.
Do you know how to handle your money in retirement? Because this is not a let's wing it situation. You need to have a written retirement financial plan in place. And the way you do that is with an expert. And the people that I like are financial and tax architects. They're just the best because their idea is we're going to teach you how things work. We're going to have a class called Retirement Planning 101. And you register and you go and we'll teach you things. This is how to avoid costly mistakes, how to maximize your income, how to reduce taxes in retirement and pay for health care. They're going to cover all of that. And then you're going to understand better how the system works. So you can just do that, or you can then say, you know what, these people are great. I'm going to have them help me, because they will. They will customize and tailor a plan to what you've got and your goals and your values. So start by learning. It's what makes sense. 314-888-5101, 314-888-5101.
Do you have $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is letting everyone know about great debt relief options now available to help people with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of your credit card debt. Get a free debt relief consultation when you call 800-586-4040. 800-586-4040. 800-586-4040.
Tuesday afternoon. We usually do this on a Monday and a Friday, but Frank Cusumano from KSDK is with us because we had the holiday yesterday. Frank, how are you on this fine Tuesday afternoon?
Mark, great to be with you. Are you ready for the single busiest week in the history of St. Louis sports?
I am. Bring it on, because I'm very excited about football. But what makes this the single busiest week in St. Louis, Missouri sports? I must ask. I must inquire.
All right, so we have the Champions Tour event where the 80 best champions golfers are going to be at Norwood Hills Country Club, everybody from Stuart Sink to Bernhard Langer. We have the NASCAR Cup Series event.
Oh, yeah.
These are the playoffs. It's going to be big. This could determine the actual NASCAR Cup Series champion. We have Mizzou, Kansas. We had the Cardinals and their Hall of Fame weekend with Al Rabowski. City SC is playing. I mean, it is absolutely wall to wall. I've told the lovely Monique, my first wife, take the week off because I'm out.
I love weeks like this, and I'm not going to lie. I'm going to tell you, last night, even though there was a college football game on that wasn't very compelling, Bill Belichick got his butt handed to him in that opener against TCU. But I did mention to my wife, and this is one of the great things about my wife, we're both such big football fans, and I watched a lot of college football over the weekend. But last night, and then tonight's another example. Well, last night and Sunday night, not Tuesday night. The last Sunday and Monday night that we will not have an NFL game for months and months and months.
Beautiful.
And for football fans, that's a good feeling.
Oh my gosh. I mean, just think about this. Thursday night, the Eagles, begin their celebration of their Super Bowl by playing the Cowboys. Friday night, it's the vastly improved Chargers against the Chiefs. You got the Ravens on Sunday night, all those great games Sunday. I mean, it's the NFL's world. We are just living in it.
Let's talk, though, a little bit about Mizzou and the KU game. There'll be a lot of build-up to that. Obviously, Mizzou coming off a pretty good victory, but you got bad news, and we were worried about this on Friday. I mean, Sam Horn's injury is one thing, but Blake Craig, this kicker who was a stud, is out for the season. So we already know the answer on that, don't we?
Yeah, that is just brutal. It's just, as a special teams coach, don't you emphasize with the valuable right leg that kicker has? Please don't try to make a tackle. Come on, be careful. We need you. If they're going to score a touchdown, let them score a touchdown. We need you. It's just such a shame. But
so is that what happened? Because I missed that. So he tries to make a play and a tackle, and that's where he gets hurt?
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Oh, it's brutal. But I will say this. is Kansas at the linebacker spot. So heading into last week's game against Wagner, they had two of their linebackers beat up. And then their best linebacker is named Kamara, who's from South Carolina. He got injured. So that's you don't want to go in facing Mizzou and Ahmad Hardy without your best linebacking crew. We'll see what this Jalen Daniels has, not Jaden, but Jalen Daniels has for Kansas. He's really elusive, but he is prone to interceptions. He threw 12 of them last year.
What a full week of college football in week one it was, Frank. I mean, there's so many different games that you could point out. I mean, you had Ohio State, Texas. You had the huge upset of Florida State over Alabama.
Which, by the way, that did not surprise me at all.
Well, I want to just get the overall thoughts in general as to what was such a loaded week one of college football, and maybe the piece or two that stood out to you the most.
Well, I think the takeaway is Alabama not showing up and not playing with passion and heart and not playing a full 60 minutes. I mean, Coach DeBoer is in big trouble if this thing doesn't turn around because they won't be patient with him in Alabama. And I think the Manning family should thank the Belichicks because now everybody is not talking about Arch. They're talking about Belichick's disastrous beginning. I don't know anybody who wasn't watching that game in the beginning. I mean, everybody was watching that. I said it before, this is the equivalent of, Bill Belichick going to mediocre North Carolina. It would be like the Pope taking over at St. Mary Magdalene. I mean, and then he bombed.
Yeah, the thing about that Alabama game is that, because I remember watching the start of the season last year. And I can't remember who they played in the first game where they were favored.
South Florida.
Wasn't it overseas? One of the games was overseas.
Florida State, Georgia Tech.
Yes,
Florida State played them in Ireland.
So they end up only winning 2 games after being ranked in the top 10 last year.
Yep.
When that game started, I told Becky when we were watching, I'm like, I would watch out for Florida State because they know exactly what's on the line and what the expectations are. And you can say what you will about Alabama and their performance, but it did not surprise me that Florida State, a team that was supposed to be a lot better than they were last year, stepped up and won. And, then the Texas-Ohio State game, that was about as boring as you could find out there. This Big Ten football.
That first half was just brutal. And it is a baptism under fire for Arch to face the defending national champion in their backyard. I think he's going to be okay. But, boy, that was tough on the kid.
What do you think about just the lack of experience? One thing that intrigues me this year regarding the field of college football is there's not a lot of experience at quarterback out there. I know you had the Clemson-LSU matchup, and there was a couple of experienced guys there. We know Illinois has an experienced guy in Luke Altmaier. But outside of that, there is a lot of green talent, and I think it creates a lot of parity. You don't really know at this point who is really a step ahead of everyone else. Would you agree, Frank?
Yeah, I think I read a stat where 66% of the top 15 teams have a new quarterback. So that speaks volumes, including Mizzou, about that. But I kind of like Mizzou's new quarterback. I'm so excited to see him, playing against a team from a Power 4 conference, not a powerhouse, but I can't wait to see him against a big-time team.
I can't either, just because I thought he looked so composed. There was a rhythm to the offense. Drink has really emphasized getting off to a quick start, not only on the road games, but the home games. So I'm excited. Look, I think the line is 6.5. Did you look, Frank?
Yes.
I mean, I'm gonna call it. We're gonna smoke these guys this weekend. How about that? That'll jinx them for sure. Unfortunately, I'll talk to you on Friday. Thank you, Cusumano.
Okay, guys.
Sue always asks me, and I'm always embarrassed by this, but she always requests for me to talk about my fantasy football draft. So I feel like I have to.
So kind of
do
her.
That. Yeah. Every Monday, she's like, "How did your fantasy team go?" And right. So, but I do have to tell Ethan this story because I'm only in 2 leagues. I was in 3 the past few years. I got out of the neighborhood one. I just felt like I couldn't give attention to 3. So I'm coming off a victory in this league, my first ever fantasy football victory after doing it for decades and decades. And I get to keep Jaden Daniels as a keeper. I drafted him in the 9th round last year. And I had Saquon Barkley. Those were the 2 that I rode to the Super Bowl victory.
It's a good duo.
So I had the 3rd pick in a keeper league, and Saquon was sitting there up for the taking as the best player. I could have gone with CeeDee Lamb, and I can't remember who else was out there, but I took Saquon. I end up with T. Higgins and Marvin Harrison Jr. as my main wide receivers. I got Zach Ertz as a tight end. a couple other players. But you know what my draft grade was? Now, mind you, I won this damn league last year. My draft grade was the worst of everyone who drafted last night, a D-, saying that I would only win 3 games.
Well, Mark, you're familiar with how these tend to go.
Yes.
Usually if you get a bad grade,
you do pretty well.
Because they're never accurate, means you're probably in a good spot.
No,
so I'd be excited about that D-
I'm
grade.
pretty sure I got an A in one of my drafts last year, and I only won 3 games in that other league. Right. So I know how that goes. And Sue, always thank you for asking about fantasy football, because I never know how to squeeze it in here.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
What if I did ask you one time and fall over?
That would throw me off.
You would know what to do.
On the roads, we've got a lot of volume out there. Southbound 55 headed for Bates. Southbound 270 is really slow tonight. Now, heaviest from Ladue Road down through Doherty Ferry, and then it opens up. Southbound 141 is jammed, headed for 44, so it's the usual. Now, 70 westbound, a little slow past the airport, and out at Highway A, but that's it. 64 is a slow go. It's Kings Highway out to McCausland, approaching Lindbergh out through 270, a little through Chesterfield Valley, and then again on either side of Lake St. Louis Boulevard. Now, if you're headed into Illinois, there's a little bit of volume headed for the Poplar, but it's not bad on the bridge itself. This report brought to you by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
The Martins came over, we were having spaghetti when we suddenly noticed that we started getting sweaty. So we grabbed the keys and we ate it in the van. That's what my friend said, call Jerry Kelly, man, JerryKelly.com. Give him a call, even though it's late, JerryKelly.com.
Well, I've always kind of talked about the Racquetball League at the MAC West, and I've done that for the last 3, this will be going on 4 years. I was on injured reserve for the summer due to some of the health problems that I had, so I'm back in it for the fall. I'm way, way out of shape. That would offer a lot of advantages to my opponents coming up this fall, but they're always doing some fun, great stuff at the MAC. One of the biggest events of the year, and the reservations for wrestling at the MAC, I think, open up tomorrow at 10 a.m. on the app. This is a big night. If you want to be there, make sure you get on the app very quickly because it's very popular. Live matches, great meal and drinks, cigars, and an appearance by WWE Hall of Famer JBL. They have tables of 10, general tables of 10, and individual seats as well. And that is, again, that's a big, big deal. Reservations open tomorrow. Do not miss out on that. Now, keep in mind that a lot of the proceeds from some of the events that we do at the MAC, proceeds go to the Children's Charitable Society, or the Charitable Society for Children, because we pick out different organizations every year to help out in the community. We're already taking some nominations for next year because we're well past the midway point of 2025. If you'd like to nominate, you can always do it on the website, mac-stl.org.
Hey, it's Bo Matthews, and Missouri Brush Control is helping landowners reclaim their property through eco-friendly forestry mulching. Missouri Brush Control can transform your overgrown acreage into accessible and usable land, and in a fraction of the time compared to conventional methods. Missouri Brush Control also cleans up around ponds, lakes, and dams, allowing easy access to your water feature. They service residential, commercial, and recreational properties with their specialized machines and years of expertise. Enjoy your land like you've always dreamed of. Visit MissouriBrushControl.com. That's MissouriBrushControl.com.
Hey, it's Mark Reardon. If you're nearing retirement or already retired, call my friends Thomas Helbig and Bob Kershaw with the Retirement Advisory Group. They'll show you how linking to the market is much safer than owning the market for your retirement savings. They're the official financial advisors of my show. Go to retirementkey.com.
Why do the national tax resolution firms need the tiny fine print at the bottom of all their TV ads? Hi, this is Lance Story with the Lance Story Law Firm. You don't hear fast talking disclaimers in our ads because the claims we make are 100% transparent. The Lance Story Law Firm primarily focuses on one thing, IRS problems, and we're regulated by the Bar Association, and we have a AAA rating with the Better Business Bureau. IRS issues are serious legal issues. The Lance Story Law Firm has helped thousands of clients navigate the best resolution plans, and we tell you up front exactly how much it'll cost. Tax resolution law is all we do. So before you send money to some out-of-town, high-pressure salesperson, give us a call at the Lance Story Law Firm, located right here in St. Louis. Call today to schedule your free consultation with me, 314-260-6120, or visit LanceDruryLaw.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
KFTK FM Florissant. An Odyssey station.
He says he'll fight it. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. The governor of Illinois says he'll take the president to court over his plans to send National Guard troops into Chicago to stop crime.
At the White House, President Trump said you can count on a National Guard presence to reduce crime in Chicago.
Well, we're going in. I didn't say when. We're going in.
Illinois Democratic Governor J.B. Pritzker pushed back just as emphatically.
No, I will not call the president asking him to send troops to Chicago.
Governor Pritzker cited stats showing declines in Chicago crime to say the president's promised action is not about stopping violence.
It's about testing his power and producing a political drama to cover up for his corruption.
Pritzker said he'll battle the president in court to block any troops on Chicago streets.
Fox's Gernal Scott and the president says the U.S. has carried out a strike in the Southern Caribbean, writing on Truth Social a short time ago that the strike targeted the Tren de Aragua gang, killing 11 people.
And there's more where that came from. We have a lot of drugs pouring into our country, coming in for a long time.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the ship was being operated by a designated narco-terrorist organization. The U.S. recently announced plans to boost maritime forces off the waters of Venezuela to combat threats from the cartels. U.S. Space Command is moving from Colorado Springs to Huntsville, Alabama.
This will result in more than 30,000 Alabama jobs and probably much more than that, and hundreds of millions of dollars of investment. And that's billions, because it can't be millions. It's billions and billions of dollars.
The move reverses a decision by President Biden that left Space Command in Colorado. Space Command is responsible for military satellite-based navigation and communication, as well as missile launch warnings. A federal judge has ordered a makeover at Google, but has rejected the request by the Justice Department to break up the company. America is listening to Fox News.
Oh, how's that flu, babe? Did you take Dayquil Intense Flu yet?
Nah, I got this. Ugh, okay, I don't got this.
You stay on the couch, and I'll grab the Dayquil.
Undo your flu symptoms with Dayquil Intense Flu. Dayquil Intense Flu provides powerful relief of your flu symptoms.
I'm ready for that to-do list.
Wow, you do got this.
Dayquil Intense Flu. The daytime coughing, aching, fever, under your flu medicine. Use as directed, keep out of reach of children.
There's nothing like when you get that part from eBay, and it just fits. Yeah, the first time. So you can do less of this and get right back to more of this. At eBay, you'll find all the parts you need, guaranteed to fit, at prices you'll love. Sounds good, doesn't it? eBay, things people love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
More delightful weather on tap as we get into the evening. Temperatures in the 70s for evening plans. Partly cloudy skies. Let's dip it back to 62. Wednesday still looking like the warmest day of the week. Partly sunny skies. A couple of scattered thunderstorms trying to pop late in the afternoon Wednesday. Let's take it up to 87. That's the warmest we've been in quite a while. Scattered showers and thunderstorms into Wednesday night 56. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Fascinated by the crime issue and how the extreme left-wing Democrats don't understand how completely out of touch they are with their peeps, with their constituents. And we have some more examples of this. First of all, J.B. Pritzker. This guy's unbelievable. How those of you in Illinois ever deal with this guy? He thinks he's going to be president, or he thinks he wants to run for president, and he has this national profile. So Trump talking about sending troops in to Chicago. Now, I get a little uncomfortable with some of this because I don't want every city having troops running around. But, you know, I go back to a couple of weeks ago when somebody said to me, well, how would you feel if there were National Guard troops around St. Louis? And I said, well, I don't know if I want to see them during the daytime, but I might want to see them at night when things kind of get out of control. And just having the police presence we saw what success, even a little bit more presence had in D.C. when it comes to, carjackings, etc. Mayor Bowser had to admit that last week. J.B. Pritzker is just basically talking politics here.
The other aims are that he'd like to stop the elections in 2026 or, frankly, take control of those elections. He'll just claim that there's some problem with an election, and then he's got troops on the ground that can take control if, in fact, he's allowed to do this.
Oh, my God, he's crazy. And he's allowed to go like on Stephen Colbert's show between now and whenever that ends and say stupid things. This is a guy named Jeffrey Mead who does some independent journalism. The first voice you'll hear is not him. You'll hear him in a second. But these are people in Chicago who are wondering, hey, who's going to stand up for our citizens because they're being violently attacked and shot at all the time?
In Chicago, everybody got to get down. Everybody got to get down because they shoot. Everybody down. Look, these kids are running. They shooting. We can't have no fun in Chicago, man.
Okay, so things like that are happening regularly in Chicago. And you see his skin color, he's black, and most of the people around him were black. But there's a protest going on in Chicago today. Check this out.
Of course, they're all white. We've seen this before. No troops in Chicago, that's what they're saying.
Now, what did you notice about the vast majority of the people in the streets protesting? A heavy majority of these people are white. There were more than 50 people shot in Chicago this weekend alone. More than 50 people. It's either 52 or 53, depending on what source you look at, and 7 people have been killed. And I'd be willing to bet money if you were out in the street and you went and asked these people, how many people were shot this weekend in Chicago?
Know. They would know.
I bet you they would not be able to tell you.
Of course not.
If you asked them how many people were killed this weekend from gunfire in Chicago, I bet they wouldn't be able to tell you. And it's funny because these white liberals and these white Democrats care to claim about Black people so much, but then they want to protest the federal government looking to send troops in to help make Black people more safe in Chicago. But again, these white people protesting are not nearly as affected as the Black people who are dealing with this every day.
We see this in St. Louis. We've seen it since 2014. We saw it in the aftermath of George Floyd. We saw it with the Stockley, protests. It's the white hippies. It's the guilty old white people. I like to describe them as the group that holds BLM signs up at the corner of Elm and Lockwood and Webster Groves. Duane Patterson is with us this afternoon to talk about some of this and other things. He contributes at hotair.com and is the host of the Duane's World podcast. How are you, Duane, this afternoon? There we go. I forgot to press the button. Let me do that. Take 2. How are you, Duane, this afternoon?
Yeah, punching me in, that always helps. I'm doing great. How are you?
Well, I'm doing okay. The crime issue and the way that the left is handling this is, it's not unlike what happened with immigration in the last couple of years. And they feel strongly, those two issues sort of are combined for Chicago, because I remember hearing, you probably used some of this audio too, some of the more heart-wrenching audio from the election year. If you go back to last summer, where there were people who were in the city of Chicago and they just saw their parks that were completely taken over by migrants with tents, etc. They were tax-paying citizens. They're like, wait a second, what about the resources that we've paid for? And they were pissed. And that was one of the more uncovered national stories in the entire cycle. I mean, everyone wanted to go see if they were eating the dogs and cats in Ohio, but no one wanted to talk to real people who were affected by these migrants and other criminals.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, that's the one thing that Trump is resonating with is he's taken another 90-10, 93-7 issue and claiming out the moral high ground here and forcing the Democratic Party nationally, statewide, everywhere to reflexively take that 7% for no other reason than Donald Trump is taking the other side. So they have to be on the opposite side. It's astounding to hear what Illinois leadership has said over the last 24 hours from all levels, whether it's at the city level with Brandon Johnson screaming at a rally for people to defend the land that was built by slave labor and the indigenous people. I don't even think God knows what the hell he's talking
of course
about.
not. Wait a second. I think I have a little audio here.
This order affirms that the Chicago Police Department will not collaborate with military personnel on police patrols or civil immigration enforcement. We will not have our police officers who are working hard every single day to drive down crime deputized to do traffic stops and checkpoints for the president. We will protect our Constitution, we will protect our city, and we will protect our people. We do not want to see tanks in our streets. We do not want to see families ripped apart. We do not want grandmothers thrown into the back of unmarked vans.
Yeah, all the scare tactics. Now, what's interesting is there's another guy out there who thinks he might want to be president, Wes Moore, who's the governor of Maryland, saying things that are a little bit more commonsensical.
One thing I do believe is that the Democrats don't have a messaging problem. There's a results problem. The Democrats have to deliver results and stop being the party of no and slow and start being the party of yes and now, because the frustration that people have, it is real. It is real when people are saying that, you know what, I feel like my life situation has not changed. And so people are looking at all these things and saying, I'm done with all of you. And so that's why I think we have to move with the kind of aggression that is necessary.
So not enough of those types on the Democrat side. Maybe that's a good thing for Republicans. But that guy clearly trying to get a little narrative in there because he wants to run for president. And he's actually making sense. Why someone, and I don't know if it was Wes Moore or somebody else, Duane, that said, look, why is this a partisan issue, right? Why can't people, Democrats, Republicans, Wes Moore said that he's talked to the president about these issues. Why can't they come together to try to solve some of these things and actually get results? Because all the yelling and screaming and the chirping that Brandon Johnson, J.B. Pritzker are doing, that's not helping anyone.
It's not helping anybody. And you're absolutely right about the media's narrative and how Democrats that go against that narrative can't get any oxygen. I'll give you a case in point. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser. Now, she can't get on TV now even if she got arrested at this point. And the reason why, she released a tweet this morning that just completely got ignored by media. And she said, upon further review, I would welcome federal police support in the District of Columbia indefinitely. Forever.
Yeah, I didn't hear about that.
Fine with. Oh, you didn't, did you?
No.
He said it. She's perfect. Do you think that's going to make the top of the newscast tonight?
No, it will not. Yeah, her point last week, and I played the audio where she had the numbers. I guess she was forced to admit the carjacking numbers were significantly down. What was it? Just slightly, 85% from the same period a year ago, right? Yeah, I think that made a difference. And she went further. She said, look, that means that, those are gun crimes when you're getting carjacked. So that means there's fewer gun crimes. Why? Now, look, President Trump loves to start, fights with Democrats or at least finish them when they start. But why this can't be something that everyone in the country can get on the same page about? Because as well as I do, you take a microphone around to Chicago and you ask the people who live up there, they'd love to have some troops. They just love to have some safety for their kids, for their families.
Yep. You saw what happened out in my neck of the woods in California last Friday, right? Right before the holiday.
I don't know. Which one was it? What event?
Our boy Gavin Newsom, the governor of the Golden State, who tries to be a little mini Trump to mock him, he held a press conference on Friday, surrounded himself with California Highway Patrol, county sheriffs up and down the state, LAPD officials. He surrounded himself by people in uniform holding this press conference and said, upon further review, I think I'm going to call out the National Guard because apparently we have a crime problem in San Francisco, Oakland, Los Angeles, and San Diego.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if he believes it, and I don't know if he's actually going to give them the rules of engagement to actually crack down, but a stepped up presence, I'm all for. But why is he doing that? He's doing that because he knows it's working. The issue is working for the Republicans. And so he's got to co-opt it, or it's going to cost him his chance at the White House.
At least he's wise enough to know that. And there's the other guy that I keep pointing toward who's saying things along these lines, who, is trying to create a little bit of a common sense lane, is Rahm Emanuel, the former mayor of Chicago. The guy that's in the current seat, though.
We had him on our show, yeah.
You have had him on?
Oh, yeah. Hugh interviewed him for almost an hour plus. And he was saying things that we on the right would think about. Where is the Democratic Party that Rahm Emanuel is now the voice of reason in that party?
Okay, but so then how does he get to, because I've heard him, and my prediction is that is someone definitely to watch out for in the nominating process. but how does his common sense, poke through? Brandon Johnson's a guy who's got an approval rating below 20%. He's a Marxist, right? He hates police. He wants to defund the police. But he and Pritzker are out there every day like they have everyone on their side because they live in Cook County, or they rule Cook County, Illinois. JB can't get away with a lot of that stuff down in my neck of the woods. But you actually have to have people who have half a brain come out and vote for these candidates in primaries. And what we're seeing from the convention in Minneapolis a couple of weeks ago, or the Democrat Socialist Convention in Chicago, is that younger people in particular, they want what Brandon Johnson and JB Pritzker are selling, not what Rahm Emanuel and Wes Moore are selling.
See, that's why I wrote my piece at Hot Air today. The Democrats are at a crossroads. In the Virginia governor's race is a perfect example of it. Robert Johnson, who is the black billionaire who founded BET, Black Entertainment Television. He was the comms director for the Corporation on Public Broadcasting before that. He was the press secretary for Washington, D.C.'s delegate back in the 70s, one of the first co-founders of the Congressional Black Caucus. He has bundled with Terry McAuliffe, Hillary Clinton's fundraiser, all the way through the late aughts and the early teens to raise money for the Democrats. In 2019, he gave an interview to CNBC and he said, I think the Democratic Party is starting to lose me. They're getting a little too crazy. And that was a little canary in the coal mine. In 2021, his old buddy, Terry McAuliffe, who ran against Glenn Youngkin in Virginia, he not only didn't endorse him, he didn't give any money to him. He did give money, $500,000 to Winsome Sears, the lieutenant governor, for no other reason than she's African-American and she's the first black female to run for high office in Virginia. And he felt he needed to support that. Now, I don't like that kind of racial politics, but 4 years later, there was a rally goer who works for the Abigail Spanberger campaign that held up a really atrocious racist sign.
Yep, I covered it last week. Yeah.
Right. And it turns out it was a Spanberger campaign worker.
So it says, hey, Winsome, and this has to do with, I don't know what the hell is going on in Loudoun County, Virginia, Duane, on a regular basis, but they are nutso there, especially in the schools. So you had the situation where these two kids who were boys were questioning why there was a biological girl in their locker room. She was actually doing the video recording, but they were the ones who got the blame and the suspension, even though she was breaking the law. So someone holds a sign up that says, hey, Winsome, if trans can't share your bathroom, then blacks can't share my water fountain. And that got a lot of attention. So this guy, Robert Johnson, is pissed off about that and some other things and writes Winsome Sears another check, right?
$500,000. And not just because of her race, but his stated reason for giving that $500,000 was because he thinks the Democratic Party has become far too racist for him, for his comfort. And that's, again, if in Virginia you have a black high roller donor who now gives money to the Republican Party because the Democrats have become too racist, this is a party that is not a healthy party. This is a party that's working themselves into being a regional party, not a national party. They'll still win the places they have to win, like Chicago, like Illinois' governor, like California's governor. They'll win the pockets where it's concentrated blue constituencies. But as a national force, I'm telling you, the Democratic Party is in real trouble right now.
Well, so let's talk about Virginia, because this is very important. What happened, you kind of chronicled this, because I covered this race with Glenn Youngkin and Terry McAuliffe quite a bit. A lot of us in the talk radio world did. And unfortunately, it was one of those situations that we thought that the red wave was going to be a little bit redder in that election cycle. But Glenn Youngkin ends up winning after being behind in the polls. So a few weeks ago, because I was curious about this race and I knew that Winsome was running, and I like her quite a bit. She's been a guest on the show and I've been a fan of her, just common sense. She's just a regular person. And I was stunned to see that Spanberger had such a big lead. I mean, it was like double-digit lead in the polls. But what you're saying is she's closing the gap now.
2 Roanoke College polls. And why that one poll is important is because 4 years ago at Labor Day, they showed McAuliffe up 7 or 8, something like that. And they showed him up big all the way along, and it closed all the way down the stretch, and Youngkin ended up beating McAuliffe by 2.5 points. But that 8-point spread in September was part of the Real Clear Politics average, which showed a bigger margin for McAuliffe than he really had. Now, this cycle, there's only a handful of polling that's come out of the Commonwealth in the last 4 months. One of the last 5 that have been in the last 5 months is this Roanoke poll from May that showed Spanberger up 17. Now, in the same overall average of Real Clear Politics polls is another Roanoke poll from a week and a half ago. The same poll, same race, it's now down to 5. And so
she's closing.
She's closing,
yeah.
But that 17 is still artificially enhancing the overall average, showing that Spanberger's up by like 6.8 points. I don't think she's up that far, and Sears is closing. That's what the indications are looking like.
Well, I hope that that's true, because obviously in a race like that, the Democrats will latch on and say, see, this is where the country is. But I would love for Winsome Sears to keep up that momentum. Now, she's not the flashiest candidate, right? But she's got a great story. She's not your typical politician. I would say, if people are paying attention, you know, it's kind of, they're on a weird cycle there with elections in 21 and 25. Why is that? Do you know?
Here's the thing. Here's the thing about Winsome Sears. On TV, she comes across a little stiff. When you hear her speak live, she absolutely commands the room. She is much better live. Whenever she gets out there and speaks to a group of people, she comes out of there just reaping votes. Her problem is she's a little wooden on TV. She's not used to doing TV. That's her weakness.
Well, but a lot of fighting to go here in the next 2 months, and that's going to be certainly something that you should keep an eye on. Can Trump keep up his momentum? You know, I mentioned this earlier. Sean Spicer brought this up last week. It's like win after win after win. He's on television answering questions seemingly every day, multiple times a day. How do you keep up the momentum?
The guy doesn't sleep. I mean, he literally never stops. He's calling his cabinet members sometimes at 3 and 4 in the morning. The guy sleeps like 3 hours a night, and the guy is a live wire. We used to say that about Winston Churchill. You know, when he was in the war room trying to fight World War II, they saved the chair that he sat in, this big, high backed wooden chair with armrests on it, and you could see carving into the armrest of the chair where his nails kept clicking into it, and he was just a live wire, always moving. And that's Trump. He has no downside. He's just always up and moving. And the guy creates his own energy. He creates his own force. I'm not saying I'm the biggest fan of everything Trump's done, but you asked me if he can keep it up. As long as God gives him breath, the guy has more energy and motivation. And the biggest mistake that the Democrats ever did was trying to hose him in the 2020 election. If he would have won the 2020 election cycle, he would have not been anywhere near as impactful from 21 to 25 as he is doing the Count of Monte Cristo routine.
And you might be right about that. Then we might be stuck with Sleepy Joe or Kamala, which is frightening in and of itself. Duane Patterson, he writes over at hotair.com. He's got a great podcast, Duane's World, works with Hugh Hewitt. Thank you, Duane. Always great to have you on. Hope your holiday was good. We'll talk soon.
My pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Take care.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got volume out there tonight. If you are westbound on 70, there is an accident reported, and it's just past Grand. And boy, is there a delay behind that. We also had a stall eastbound 70 before Mid Rivers. Watch for that in the right lane. But westbound 70 doesn't slow again until 94 out through Cave Springs and a little bit Highway A through Wentzville. Now, 64 is a slow go. It's approaching Hampton out through McCausland. We had an accident reported eastbound around Big Bend, so some slow-moving traffic there. Westbound picks up again at 270. Southbound 270, slow pockets. It's pretty slow between Olive and Doherty Ferry. And we've got the usual jam. Southbound 141 headed for 44. By the way, if you're headed into Illinois, we look great. No problems through there. But boy, do we have a slow go. Southbound 141 tonight as you head on down toward Fiedler. This report brought to you by me. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
You do get a little discount on those sponsorships, don't you?
Yeah, I really do.
All right,
Thanks for
that's
asking.
excellent. Let's talk about Banner Construction because Bill Coffin, Sam P., they have an outstanding company here in St. Louis. They've been around since 1993. They specialize in the best because the best puts a lot of trust in Banner Construction. When I talk about the best products, we're talking about James Hardy fiber cement siding, which became one of the most popular types of siding over the years because it's durable, it looks beautiful. You have something that is technologically sort of a marvel. It's been around for a long time, but they keep making it better and better. And the same siding that you might put on your, side of your house here in St. Louis would be different that they would use in California or in Las Vegas or in Florida because it's engineered for different climates. So these have a lot of benefits. There's no doubt termite, pest resistance, mold, mildew, and rot resistance. You have better, fire resistance, all kinds of things, and it improves energy efficiency. So if you're looking for a great product to put on your home with a great company to take the lead and do all the designing, work with you collaboratively on an amazing project, not only maybe with siding, but with pellet replacement windows. I'm going to guide you in right now to Banner Construction. The phone number, it's easy, 314-569-1050. The website, bannerconstruction.com.
Do you have $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is letting everyone know about great debt relief options now available to help people with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of your credit card debt. Get a free debt relief consultation when you call 800-586-4040. 800-586-4040. 800-586-4040.
That baby's gone! Cardinals fans, FanDuel Sports Network is your home of the Cardinals. That ball was mashed. And there are more ways to watch this season. Holy cow! Subscribe directly to FanDuel Sports Network to stream the Cardinals without blackouts. How about that play? Or watch through a TV provider. Incredible! Including DirecTV, Spectrum, Xfinity, Fubo, and more. He got it! Learn more at cardinals.com/TV. Ball game! That couldn't have worked out any better for the Cardinals.
Hey guys, Glover here with my friends Mark and Neil Gelman of eXp Realty. If you need to sell your home to buy a new one, it's never been more important to have an experienced negotiator that you can trust. You need my friends Mark and Neil Gelman on your side, 314-336-1991. Go to thegelmanteam.com.
Fast-paced, fact-based, and never boring. This is the Mark Reardon Show.
I read this horrifying story earlier today by an author by the name of Brook Brandtjen, who wrote in The Federalist about her experience growing up and how transgenderism has surrounded her. And she offers some perspectives that I have not heard from a lot of people on this particular issue. So Brooke's going to join us here in just a few minutes. Hey, are you someone out there that works for tips? Do you have tips that are involved in your particular employment? You heard as part of the big, beautiful bill that you will not have to pay taxes on those tips. So who qualifies? Who will qualify for that deduction? Well, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, and the administration kind of came out with a list. I guess there are 70 different occupations. They have a preliminary list, if you will, on qualifying occupations. So, of course, bartenders, this would be beverage and food service, bartenders, wait staff, food servers, dining room and cafeteria attendants, and bartender helpers, chefs and cooks, food preparation workers, fast food and counter workers, dishwashers, host staff, restaurant, lounge, and coffee shop, and bakers all qualify for that. For entertainment, if you're a dealer at a casino and you get tipped, you'd be exempt. Gambling change people and booth cashiers. Do you really tip those people? I've never tipped a booth cashier or a gambling change person. I guess if you're going in, though, it makes sense. You get a big jackpot and you're going in to cash in your chips. You'll give a couple of chips to the change people. Gambling cage workers, gambling and sportsbook writers and runners, dancers, musicians and singers, disc jockeys, However, that excludes radio, unfortunately. Well, we got this thing called payola and plugola that we're supposed to avoid. So I think that would be covered under that. Entertainers and performers. Hey, that sounds like me, though. I think I can be tipped. Digital content creators, ushers, lobby attendants, and ticket takers, locker room, coat room, and dressing room attendants. For hospitality and guest services, baggage porters and bellhops, concierges, hotel, motel, resort desk clerks, maids and housekeeping cleaners. Home services. This one's really open. Home maintenance and repair workers, home landscaping and groundskeeping workers, home electricians, plumbers, home heating and air conditioning mechanics and installers. Now, no offense, but I've never tipped my HVAC guy, I don't think, or my electrician. Home appliance installers and repairs. There again, not sure I've been opening up the tip book for them. Home cleaning service workers, that makes sense. Locksmiths, roadside assistance workers. In the personal services category, you may be exempt from tips if you do personal care and service. If you're a private event planner, if you are a private event and portrait photographer, if you are a private event videographer, if you are an event officiant, so I guess that's someone who is marrying the other person, if they're doing the, the ceremony. Pet caretakers, that makes sense. I have some of those. Tutors, nannies and babysitters, personal appearance and wellness. These people would be exempt. Skincare specialists, massage therapists, barbers, hairdressers, hairstylists, cosmetologists, shampooers. I didn't realize that was a separate category. Manicurists and pedicurists, eyebrow threading and waxing technicians. Of course, they need their tips, and they're not going to be taxed on those tips. Makeup artists, exercise trainers and group fitness instructors, tattoo artists and piercers, tailors, shoe and leather workers and repairs. Then you go to the recreation and instruction category. Man, the list goes on here. Golf caddies, self-enrichment teachers, recreational and tour pilots, tour guides and escorts, travel guides, sports and recreation instructors. And there's a couple more here. I got the list. Transportation and delivery, parking and valet attendants, exempt on tips, taxi and rideshare drivers and chauffeurs, shuttle drivers, goods delivery people, personal vehicle and equipment cleaners, private and charter bus drivers, water taxi operators and charter boat workers, rickshaw, pedicab, and carriage drivers, and home movers. Any of those categories will get you exempt from tips in this year's taxes when you file next year, thanks to the big, beautiful bill.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've had some slowdowns this afternoon. And if you are leaving downtown, there's a big one. There is an accident on westbound 70 past Grand, and it has created a parking lot jam back almost into the depressed section, which is right there in front of the arch grounds where the highway goes down. But I'll tell you what, we've got some volume on westbound 40 as well. Kings Highway out through McCausland picks up again, approaching Lindbergh out through 270. And then a little bit of moderate volume through Chesterfield Valley and opening up. Southbound 270, moderate volume from Olive through Doherty Ferry. 141 southbound is really jammed at 44. And let's see, there's a little bit of volume on westbound 70, and it's mainly coming off of the Blanchette Bridge through Cave Springs, and then it opens up and looks better. This report brought to you by Barron Mirror Glass and Door. Simply the finest when it comes to mirror glass and shower doors. You can't find better quality, prices, or service than at Barron Mirror Glass and Door. They have the basics all the way up to the elite. Barron Mirror Glass and Door can't be beat. Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Well, it's going to
Stop everything you're doing right now and ask yourself, are you currently receiving steady paychecks? What about when you're retired? Will you receive a monthly check to cover your expenses and also have some fun? Marvin Mitchell and the team at Compass Retirement Solutions calls this mailbox money. It's a monthly check you'll receive throughout retirement. They don't want you to worry about if the money will show up or how much money you'll receive. The only thing they want you to think about is how to spend it when it arrives. Find out how to get enough money in your mailbox every month when you're retired. Call Marvin Mitchell and the Compass Retirement Solutions team at 314-373-1598 to start working on a plan that can help you create the monthly income you'll need in retirement. Call 314-373-1598 right now and schedule a visit with Compass Retirement Solutions. 314-373-1598. Firm offers insurance services, investments, and services offered through Compass Retirement Group, a registered investment advisory in Missouri and Illinois.
All right, this is going to be a fun week when it comes to Underdog Fantasy because the football season begins, and all you have to do is download the app. Underdog, the best place to select entries and win money all season long. You can play with as little as $1. You can win up to 5,000 times your cash. And if you get a username and you make a deposit, and I'm going to give you a little bonus cash here, at least guide you into how to get that on the app. But all you have to do then is pick whether, and it looks like they have new graphics up here on Underdog that I haven't seen. So for the Chiefs game, for example, you just pick higher or lower on the stat line. Will Travis Kelce get more than 50 receiving yards? Will Patrick Mahomes have more than 1.5 touchdowns? So will he have 2 passing touchdowns or more? I'm going to say higher on that for the opener. Now, it's not in Kansas City. It's in Brazil, but still, Xavier Worthy, how many receiving yards and rushing yards will he have? You can go to the other side of the ball with Keenan Allen. Will he get more than 33.5 receiving yards? So you put a pick together, put as many as you want to. You can cross-pollinate, if you will, with other sports, or you can just do football, and you can make a little money and have fun. Millions of fans have won billions making plays on Underdog. The only question is, will you be next? Must be 18 plus and present in Missouri. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play, call 800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
This portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air.
For details and a list of all station contest rules, visit www.971talk.com/rules. Cutting through the spin. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
With the day is just a little bit because of the holiday, and today is Tuesday. We did have a great conversation with Frank Cusumano in the last hour. He usually visits on a Monday, but he was here on a Tuesday. He'll be back on Friday as well. Carl Cannon was here in the 3 o'clock hour. You can always use the rewind button and go back and listen to Carl. He is the Washington bureau chief for Real Clear Politics, weighed in on a bunch of different issues related to D.C. Nick Schroer was also here, state senator, regular on the roundtable, and we were talking about Governor Kehoe calling the special session for the, for both initiative petition and for the congressional rewrite. I read this piece that was in, I think this was in the Federalist today, by Brook Brandtjen, who is with us tonight from Wisconsin, because she had a very personal, in-depth piece about her experience, direct experience with transgenderism and how all this nonsense has come about. Hi, Brooke. How are you? Welcome to 97.1 FM Talk in St. Louis.
I am excellent. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I have some Wisconsin roots. My wife is from Whitefish Bay. I lived in Milwaukee for 10 years. Where are you up there?
I am actually right outside Milwaukee in the suburbs.
Which one? I know that area very well.
I am in Menominee Falls.
Awesome. Yeah, I lived in Bayside and Sherwood for a while, and we can both agree by saying go Pack go. Can't we come to terms on that right now?
Absolutely. We are ready for football season here.
So this whole thing with the trans cult has been fascinating for me. You know, about 5 or 6 years ago now, I'm fine with my son. He's actually a teacher, or as I would say, an indoctrinator in the city of Chicago right now. But I was called a transphobe by my son, who is now 25 years old, because I dared to draw the distinction between a biological male and a biological female on one of my tweets. Now, he was a little younger then, and I don't really know if he would change his position on this, but you are young enough that you've kind of gone through this period when this started to become, and I hate to even use the word fashionable, but it kind of became fashionable with teenage girls in particular, didn't it?
It really has. I believe that there has been a little bit of a shift in the way that transgenderism has been viewed and the way that it's been utilized by people. where, especially for young people, if you're a little bit young and you don't necessarily fit into one of the categories where you're super, I hate to say it, but like popular or very cool, you're not into football, you're not into shopping, whatever the very trendy thing is, if that's not your personality and you are a little bit quirkier and maybe you feel a little bit awkward, then a really good way to remedy that is by saying, I'm actually the wrong gender. I was born in the wrong body, and that's why I feel uncomfortable.
So were you in a situation, you kind of describe a friend group, and the friend group was doing, kind of things that friend groups do, video games and listening to music and going for walks and stuff like that. But then was there a certain point when things sort of shifted?
The biggest shift actually came as we were getting a little bit older, and things like using drugs and going out drinking and going out partying became a little bit more of like the normal, especially as people were looking ahead to college, that became, a big thing that people were excited about. So that's when a lot of these changes started to really take significant hold on a lot of that friend group. But the biggest shift actually happened in 2020. So I was a senior in high school in 2020, and that was the year that I graduated. And in the subsequent years after that, almost every few months, I would see someone that I had been friends with, or someone that was a friend of a friend, or that I had a class with, coming out as transgender online. So I would say that the pandemic and the global shutdown almost seems to be this breaking point where there was a massive cultural shift in how so many of these young people were approaching their identity.
Brooke, this is crazy because you even say that most of the friends, we were kind of taking you back to a period when you were just 14 years old, 15 years old. But you say most of the friends that you made at that age now identify as transgender or non-binary. And you said, look, you knew these, you kind of referred to this as the before and the after, and you saw what happened to a lot of these kids and how they fell into what you refer to as the LGBT cult, which is exactly what it is. And mental illness comes into play here. And as you may or may not know, that we had pretty significant storyline in this in St. Louis when Jamie Reed, who was married to a trans person and is a lesbian, came out with a big whistleblower report 3.5 years ago about Washington University and Children's Hospital, which has since been shut down. But what she saw, and this is something that we saw unfortunately come to dramatic light in Minneapolis last week in tragedy, is that a lot of these kids who were coming in thinking that they were queer or non-binary or whatever it was, they were seriously mentally ill. Maybe they were gay. Okay, maybe they were gay, but they were seriously mentally ill. Do you see in your friend group, was some of that taking place? Because you talk about how a lot of them started latching on to the alphabet mafia stuff. They started using the identifiers, right? They, them, etc. Or they said things like, I think I'm non-binary, or I think I'm pansexual. I had a friend whose daughter, by the way, is about to get married, and she's about as hetero as they come. But in high school, she said that she was identifying as queer, just because it seemed to be like the fashion. Again, I'll go back to that word fashionable. It seemed to be like the in thing to do. She's far from queer. She's very hetero. She's getting married. But for that age group, she kind of temporarily got sucked inside the cult, Brooke.
Absolutely, because they make it so easy to get sucked inside that cult. When you are 14 and 15 and 16 and you're a little bit awkward, or you're into things that are a little bit stranger, a lot of my friends were big into skateboarding or video games or things that were just a little bit off the beaten path. And I think that they didn't always feel accepted by everyone in our school. We had 400 people in our class, and naturally, some kids have different interests. Some kids just don't get along. And so for my friends that were a little bit quirkier and had some strange, but nothing evil that they were interested in, they took that really hard. And so I do think there was some of the seeds of what you could consider to be mental illness. But also, I think that allowed them to say, these feelings of discomfort that I have, because I'm 14 years old, and everybody feels uncomfortable at 14 years old.
Exactly.
Let's be real.
It's a valid point. Yes, exactly.
Yes. That's actually something biologically wrong with me. And so if you have this way to opt out of that and say, it's not my fault, I'm not uncomfortable because I'm 14, I'm actually fundamentally broken, all of these so-called loving parents and teachers and guardians that are around them are giving them a way for them to absolutely mutilate themselves so that these young people don't have to take responsibility for how they feel.
It's outrageous. It really is. And Brook Brandtjen is here. She wrote about this in the Ferals. For you, it became a bit of a double-edged whammy from this perspective. I can sit here, and I've done this before with my audience, and I think I have a lot of people in the audience that would share my similar experience, where unfortunately in the age of Trump, in the past couple of years in particular, I've had friends that have been decades-long friends who have known my politics, by the way, for decades. They really haven't changed. But because I'm saying things that are more positive about the big bad orange man, I am persona non grata with some of these friends. And again, some of these people I've been friends with since I was in high school, since I was 14 or 15 years old. You've had the same thing happen with the transgenderism, but also because you have conservative politics, right, Brooke?
Yes. I posted a photo of Donald Trump on my Instagram shortly before the election last year, and I had tens, if not hundreds of people that I was friends with in high school and that I knew just from daily life unfollow me and totally cut me out of their lives, which is such a strange place to be as a young person because I'm not that old. I'm 23. I've been out of high school for 5 years now, but almost no one from my high school and my high school friend groups will talk to me because I have a conservative viewpoint and because I am a very bold professor of my Christian faith. And that's something that they hate so violently that they would rather me not be in their lives totally.
Does it bother you? Or have you moved on?
It bothers me only because I know that they still have not come to Christ, because they have not learned about the truth that is inherent to conservative values. So I am at peace with it. I know that my kingdom is not of this world, that I am God's creation and that I am made perfectly in his image. I just do still feel compelled to reach out to them and to show them that they do not have to mutilate themselves, that they do not have to consider themselves broken or mentally ill or put a weird label on their identity in order to be loved and accepted.
Well spoken, Brooke. Thank you for, having the courage to write about this. I don't know how, usually I might say, well, there's a lot of people that are in your same position. I do think there are a fair number of conservative younger people who you are in similar positions, but the whole cult aspect of this is just bizarre to some of us. And look, I've been tracking this for a long time, and I think there's a lot more positive happening than there ever has been. And the aforementioned Jamie Reed had a lot to do with that because this is now being exposed. Look, her trans, partner, husband, whatever you want to call it, is detransitioning. So but those stories, of course, as you know, they don't get told in the Washington Post or the New York Times. You just see, the other stuff that glorifies this and evil, makes people like you and me, the bigots and the transphobes and the evil people in this whole argument. So I think the tide has turned a little bit. I'm glad that you wrote about it. You're a great guest, and go Pack Go. How about if we close with that?
Go Pack Go.
All right. Thank you, Brooke. Take care. We'll see you.
Thank you.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got a jam out of downtown. If you are a westbound 70 driver, there was an accident past Grand, and it's been blocking the two left lanes, and it still is. So, boy, do we have a jam behind it. Now, that's the worst of it. If you are westbound on 64, it's just mainly moderate volume approaching Hampton out through McCausland, maybe a little bit west of 94, and then it opens up. Eastbound, a little slow at Big Bend. Southbound 55 actually looks pretty good. And southbound 270, accident reported south of Olive. Watch for a little bit of a slowdown there. And then there's some moderate volume just between there and the Doherty Ferry area. In fact, near Doherty Ferry, we had a report of a stall, but it was on the right shoulder. So just a little bit of a delay through there. This report brought to you by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Mark Cox here. Join us live Thursday, September 11th at Chicken Ellie's in Eureka as we support Focus Marines Foundation. They're helping post 9/11 veterans transition to civilian life. Learn more at 971talk.com/events.
From now on, if you spring a leak, need a water heater, or have hard water,
Thanks for calling Jerry Kelly Heating, Air, Plumbing, and Electrical.
Jerry Kelly will fix the leak, install the thing, and make that hard water easy. From the company who's got your whole home covered.
I cannot believe that we're almost at our final seminar with Thomas Helbig and the team from the Retirement Advisor Group. All the official notifications will go out very, very soon. But if you're someone who is interested in improving your lot in retirement, this is something you're going to want to attend. The good news is you don't have to wait. You can go in one-on-one with Thomas and the team and let them help you pursue the retirement of your dreams. All you'd have to do, this is what I would highly recommend, because I found this to be helpful when Thomas and I met him several years ago. He gave me a bunch of phone numbers. He said, call these folks. These are real clients of mine. Touch base with them. I did that. They were all very responsive. They said that Thomas, one of the things they pointed out, Thomas is extremely responsive, and they're all glad that they learned his strategy and the team strategy. It's a family-run operation. Bob Kershaw, his nephew, Bob's wife, Tammy, of safely linking to the market. So if you're way far away from retirement, which like Annie is when she does the seminars with us, if you're approaching retirement, which I'll just call out Mark Cox. He's older than I am, I think. I don't even know if he is, but we'll say that he is. If you're nearing retirement, doesn't matter what stage you're in, even if you're in retirement, Thomas Helbig and the team from the Retirement Advisor Group is there to help you. The next seminar is coming up in September. You don't have to wait. You can call 314-993-9494. Online, retirementkey.com.
You all remember me mentioning my wife's thermostat being broke because of the, the change of women evidently have to go through, which is horrible. People called me asking me how did she feel about me sharing her insanity. I did notice seeing her looking through a fork at me. So, hey, guys, if your wife, your girlfriend, your better half is looking through a fork at you, look it up. Why? You're going to be shocked. But she's still happy that she's got air conditioning. So you need help, you need pricing, somebody told you need new equipment. Remember, Bart Inman, one easy number, Missouri and Illinois, 314-293-2600. But guys, look up wives looking through forks at husband. You better change your program around. God bless.
Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort, offering small ship experiences with a shore excursion included in every port and programs designed for cultural enrichment. Discover more at Viking.com. That's Viking.com.
The Mark Reardon Show, 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
I'm sitting here and I am doing in real time a little sorting for audio cut of the day, because sometimes I have it picked out. I do have it picked out right now. But when I'm looking through the list, I'm sitting here next to my computer of all my audio. It reminded me of something that I didn't get to today. And I just sent Fred an email that said, I want to talk about this tomorrow. So I heard this morning. I can't remember if I saw it on the Twitter or if Fox aired this, but this is a mom talking about, and I have a great story that I want to relate to this tomorrow. A mom talking about, or maybe it wasn't even a mom, it was a Generation Xer talking about something that happened on an airplane with a kid kicking a seat.
I sat next to and had the worst experience with a child on a flight that I have ever experienced in my life. We will call him Spencer. Spencer and his mother were sat next to me. Spencer proceeded to endlessly kick the seat in front of him. She did not correct him once. She didn't correct him. Then he started opening the tray, banging it down and throwing it back up. And he was doing this endlessly. And yet again, she was not correcting his behavior.
Oh, I have a great relatable story for that. And I think it was on my first international flight ever. And we will share that tomorrow. I know Sue probably can't wait for that. We'll share it tomorrow here at 4:04 on 97.1 FM Talk.
Playback ready. Now, the audio cut of the day.
All right, this one's just a little different here because Peter Doocy was not only able to ask a question, but was able to come right up to shoulder to President Trump and kind of show him an image. He asked him about something that was kind of going viral over the weekend.
There is a video that is circulating online now of the White House where a window is open to the residence upstairs and somebody is throwing a big bag out the window. Have you seen this?
No, that's probably AI generator.
So
Actually, you can't open the windows. You know why? They're all heavily armored and bulletproof.
a fake video.
Well, it's got to be because I know every window up there. The last place I'd be doing it is that because there's cameras all over the place, right? Including yours. No, but every window, I've never seen a window that's, in fact, my wife was complaining about it the other day. She said, love to have a little fresh air come in, but you can't. They're bulletproof. And number one, they're sealed. And number two, each window weighs about 600 pounds. You have to be pretty strong to open them up. And one of the problems we have with AI, it's both good and bad. If something happens really bad, just blame AI.
You know, he's right about that, though. There's so many things that happen. They look real. I think, you know, we have to vet this quite carefully on the show because we've almost been caught. We have a great team with Ethan and Fred, and we are skeptical because there's audio that I sometimes have them pull or I get ready to play, and then we realize it is a cheap fake or a deep fake. Isn't that what they called them last summer? All right, have a great Tuesday evening. We're back tomorrow at 3.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Well, we're thinning out nicely with the exception of westbound 70. And that's where there is an accident past Grand blocking the 2 left lanes. Traffic is stacked up behind it. In fact, it's almost into the depressed section, which is just the lower part of 70 or 44 that goes in front of the arch. Now, westbound 6440, a little slow at Hampton. Nothing unusual there. And then to the west, it looks much better. Southbound 270, really just moderate volume now from the Clayton Road overpass down through Doherty Ferry. Not too bad. This report brought to you by The Diamond Shop. The Diamond Shop, making St. Louis sparkle for over 100 years. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Lowe's knows that no matter your paint project, saving is at the top of your list. That's why when you shop today, you can buy one, get one free. Select Valspar and HGTV Home by Sherwin-Williams. One coat coverage interior paints via rebate. Shop these deals in-store or online today at Lowe's. We help, you save. Selection varies by location while supplies last. Discount taken at time of purchase. See sales associate for details. Offer valid 8/21 through 9/3.
You're still glowing, flirting, grooving. You still got it. But your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, and COVID-19. Vaccines are a key part of any health routine and help strengthen your immune response. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Schedule in minutes at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
We, without hesitation, recommend that anybody work with ThrottleNet. The experience will be as good as it's been for us, for anybody, because you'll get a true partnership and you'll be able to rest easy that you're going to get the service that you need while they're also doing all those things that you don't want to have to think about, that you don't want to have to worry about. They're always doing that in the background for you.
Don't wait for your next IT crisis. If your business depends on technology, you need a partner that's got your back. Contact ThrottleNet.com to get a free IT evaluation and see how we can support your IT everything.
Are you nearing retirement and don't know if you have enough money saved to retire? That is scary. Do you have a written retirement financial plan in place? Well, when it comes to retirement planning, the trusted team at Financial and Tax Architects are the best. They've helped people all over St. Louis retire with confidence. And that's what you want. You want to retire with confidence. Now, they offer a one-night, 2.5-hour adult education class called Retirement Planning 101. They hold these at colleges over the St. Louis area and in Illinois. No cost.